Greetings and salutations. You've successfully arrived at the Bloody Disgusting Network. The passage of time will now bring you to something strange, unique, and idiosyncratic. Have a good time.
Greetings, constant listeners, and welcome back to the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast. I'm your host, Michael Monroeville Mall Rothman, and I am unlocking one of our book episodes. This is where we are now. We are just unlocking book episodes, and we're going to catch up. We're going to catch up all the way to the end, or at least to where we are currently in the zeitgeist of Stephen King by the end of the year. But we're still a few years back, specifically August 2021. Do you remember that? Or that year? 2021. We're all coming back. People are going outside a little bit, commiserating, going to movies again. I believe the big 2021 movie Spiral, remember? When it was still with Lionsgate. Well, anyway, there are a lot of Billies I like. I like Billy Madison. I like Bronco Billy. I even like Billy Crudup. Billy Crudup is great. But Billy Summers, that was a new name for us back in 2021. And it was a new name because it was a new Stephen King book. And you probably remember the pitch. It's the hired assassin, the hired gun. We thought, well, this is a little weird. This isn't exactly King's Dominion that we know. Is it a true crime novel? Well, yes and no. And we were surprised by what we read. And you now finally, again, if you haven't been a patron for all this time, get to finally listen to it all in full. And I recall it being a pretty amicable episode. Nothing too crazy, nothing too wild. But, memories come and go, So it's been 4 years. For all I know, we could be making some random references in vitriol, which is not unlike me. And you might be like, well, wait a second, that's dated. So just know that this was recorded in August of 2021, and that is why it may feel dated. But yeah, this is an interesting story with surprisingly a lot of King's Dominion. And you probably know what I'm talking to because you hopefully have read it by now. And if you haven't read it, well, read the book and then come back here and catch up with the rest of us. Because at this point going forward, we're going to be able to talk about everything in King's Dominion up until 2021, August of 2021. Yeah. So enjoy the book episode and return next week when we go really far back because we are doing a reread of The Stand in anticipation of It's the End of the World as We Know It, which is that collection of short stories for The Stand. So Jen led a new Twitter episode for our Stand coverage. We're going to be doing it in the same way that we did it back in, I believe that was 2017. So you'll get a new perspective on The Stand from some old losers, familiar faces, and some newer losers, which aren't really newer losers so much so as losers that joined us, in the years since then, since we started. And that, we've got a lot of losers with us. We've got 10 or 12, more than the actual Losers Club, if you believe it or not. Although if you combine the young losers and then the older losers, maybe we've got an equal pair there. But anyway, I'm rambling as I always do in these intros, but sit back, enjoy this trip with Billy Summers.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of
Greetings, constant listeners, and welcome yet again to the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast. And this, a hot Billy summer for one and all. That's right. In this Patreon exclusive episode, we are talking about King's latest, his second book of 2021, Billy Summers, the story of a well-read hitman and the erosion of his moral code. My name is Rockin' Randall Snipeburn, and baby, can you dig this panel? Mike, what did you think about my use of hot Billy Summer?
I thought it was really cool, and it's really in touch with like the hot girl summer. Like we're bringing back like the hot girl summer. It's cool. It's hip.
Whenever
it's
I say it, I imagine Matt Damon turning into the old version of himself in Saving Private Ryan.
Well, that's kind of how I felt. Reading the book in the sun when I was pruning. I don't know where I was going with that joke, but anyway, this is Michael Monroeville Mall, not in this book. Rothman.
No.
Yeah, so excited to talk about summer.
What was your expectation of Billy Summer going in? Billy Summer, I keep saying Billy Summer.
Billy Summer, John Depp and Billy Summer.
Right.
Billy Summer is, when I read it and the synopsis, like, I guess it was like 6 or 7 months ago, 8 months, and they released the cover. I thought the cover was interesting, especially since there's like a little red car. I was like, oh, Christine, vroom, vroom. Not the case. It's a little red truck, but my expectations were, oh no, he's going to do another true crime novel again. I can't handle this. I just did later that had a little bit too much true crime I needed. We just got done with Mr. Mercedes, The Outsider and covering HBO. I don't want to do true crime. So I expected something that was just going to be like, I don't know, something that would be like one of his shows
Bosch.
That he likes, Designated Survivor or a Bosch.
Designated Survivor.
Did not expect, the book that we got. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm. Jen, say hello. And what did you expect of Billy Summer?
Hi, this is Jenny Summers Adams. Since Randall stole my intro. Same. Oh no was pretty much summed up what I felt when I read that synopsis. I was like, no, I'm not interested in this. But I was shocked by how much I loved this. Spoiler for later. But yeah, I was not excited about it at all. And if it hadn't been a new King book, then I wouldn't have probably read it for a while, if it was any other writer. But you know what? That's how I felt about 11/22/63. I had that and I didn't want to read it for a long time because I thought it was going to be really historical and really kind of in the details of history. And I was blown away by that one too. So,
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Blown away.
And who is that joining us? Lara, say hello. And what were you expecting from Billy Summer?
From Billy Summer.
Summer.
Well, this is Lara. If you want to play, you have to pay. Uninstall.
Nice.
My favorite phrase of the book. I also I saw the phrase neo noir, I think, associated with it, and was like, oh, this is not gonna be good. And I was staring at it, even at the copy of it, going I gotta fucking read this thing. But then, completely different book than I was expecting. Super reflective and sentimental, and and kind of it hit me in the heartstrings in ways I was not ready for. I was not nude or prepared. So I'm looking forward to discussing.
Very cool. Yeah, I had the same reaction. I was just like, he's been watching too much Bosch, and now we're not getting horror anymore, and I'm annoyed. But yeah, Billy Summers is a really surprising book in that it is everything I sort of expected it to be. It's very boomery, it's very dad, it's very Bosch, but it's also at the same time I don't know, like you said, really reflective, very human, very emotional. And you can tell he really loves this world and loves this character and loves, most of the people, I'd say the people that are closest to Billy. Everyone else kind of occupies certain archetypes that some are silly, but I think always effective. And some I think are actually really neat and compelling. And we'll talk more about that. So.
Yes. Don't you see? Don't you see how clear it all is? Not only can you see the future, I can change it. You can change it, exactly.
I mean, we always talk about the history when we talk about books. I mean, obviously, there's not much to say. It just came out, published by Scribner on August 3rd, 2021. It was first mentioned by Stephen King in an NPR interview in April of 2020, where he discussed having to change the story from taking place in 2020 to 2019 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Any interview that you read with him, he tells that story. You can tell he's getting older because he's only got room for kind of a couple anecdotes when he's talking about books. And one of them is that he couldn't he couldn't have the book set during 2020 because the scene where the upstairs neighbors go on the cruise wouldn't happen. And that was a very important thing that needed to happen. He tells that story in about like 14 interviews that I read. But there were also some other really good quotes that I got from him talking about this book. I'd say the best interview that he did about this book was in Esquire. He actually opened up quite a bit on it. So the origins of the story, he told Esquire, he said, with Billy Summers, the first thing for me was this. I saw a man in a basement apartment looking out a window like a periscope and seeing feet go by on the sidewalk. I played with that for a while. What's this guy doing here? Why is he there? What does it all mean? After playing with that for a while, I thought of this same guy in an office building on the 5th or 6th floor of a building near a courthouse. What's he doing there? Well, he's going to shoot somebody. He's going to shoot a bad guy. Those two things started to connect. I thought to myself, he's going to shoot this bad guy, and then he's going to hide out in this basement apartment where all the legs are going by. Those two things, little by little, spun into the whole story. That doesn't always happen with me, but with this one it did, and I got a book out of it. For me, the real fun was this. I'm thinking of this guy in this office building, and he's going to take the shot. I saw the angle of the shot very clearly. I thought to myself, well, how's he going to get out of there? Before I started the book, that was really the place where I was stuck. But I was still having fun thinking about it. Little by little, I got an idea of how he might escape. Then I thought to myself, well, you've got to have some kind of story around these two images. That's when I started to think about, what if this guy is going to shoot a really bad guy and he's being played? Then I thought of the famous Last Job. There are so many movies about the last job, which always goes wrong. I said to myself, why don't you play into that and write this story as a hard-boiled noir? That's the sort of thing I liked to read when I was younger. Books by Jim Thompson and Elmore Leonard. And off I went. So that was, to me, interesting. And I think that's the thing with King's process is like, it's not that remarkable, It's like he's just like, I thought of a man in a basement, and then it kind of spins out from there. And I think that's sort of when writing novels is in your blood as much as it is for him. I think it's a pretty simple process.
Yeah, I mean, look, I make the joke impersonation of him as David Lynch all the time, but. Say that in the voice of Lynch, and it's literally like the same type of mentality, like the idea of him, like, I saw a man in a basement apartment looking out a window and feet go by, like that sort of
that does sound like Lynch. Yeah.
It's like the seeds, like when he talks about fishes of an idea, like that's literally how I feel like Lynch comes up with bigger stories. Like with Blue Velvet, he's like, I saw a naked woman on the streets, and that actually ties back to his like own personal backstory of growing up. But it's like he does start with these abstract images and build upon that world. And it's kind of cool to see, we always joke around, like people always asking the dumb question of like, how do you get your ideas or whatever? But like you read this and you can see how he gets his ideas. He just keeps pulling threads. And you see that certainly in Billy Summers. Like I was saying in my review for Bloody Disgusting, like I think this is his most actionable novel. And it's because I think you could tell he's just having so much fun building this world, pulling the thread, building this world, pulling the thread. And for us, it's really fun to read. And like, I was kind of shocked at that, like, because not to say that his books aren't always page turners, but sometimes like you find there's the rare, when you're with a good Stephen King book, when you didn't realize that like 60 or 80 pages went by in an hour. And that's what I realized with like 11/22. That's what I realized with Under the Dome. And honestly, like that's kind of what I did with a lot of parts of If It Bleeds last year. But like when that rare moment happens, and obviously we have that in like the first run of like the 70s and 80s, it's just it's a magical thing without being too hallmark about it. But
I really enjoyed getting to read this because it's been a while since I've sat down and like read a novel that I haven't read before. I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. And I had that sensation of like falling into the story and like time, like I was like, oh shit, I didn't leave myself enough time to read this. What's going to happen? And then I just read it like so quickly, and it just gave me that feeling that I used to get when I was younger and would read a novel, like, so when he's still got that magic, baby.
Yeah, he does. He really does. And
the thing that reminded me so much of 11/22/63 and why I think this is so like full of life is because there's the ticking clock, and it's really like the story is really simple. It's just like I have to go back and shoot someone. Basically, both stories like revolve around shooting a person or stopping a shooting, but he has to get there so much earlier. So it's like him just allowing these characters to be characters. And I think King is so good at just doing that and letting the story come out, which is why we get such a beautiful story. And I think this one does, you're right, has a lot of action because it's not the end goal of the book. Once that happened, what's that 120 pages in? It's like, well, shit, where are we going now?
Right.
And
Yeah, like you were saying, like the sandbox that he gives himself, and when he has that time, and you know he has an end goal, but then he's like, all right, well, let's gonna scale back, and I'm gonna have some time to kind of develop the area. I mean, he's been doing that since fucking Salem's Lot, so like it's so it's all muscle memory to him, and I just love when he does that. Like the weight is some of the best parts. Like sometimes, like with authors, that could be just the most atrocious thing, especially in like shows. Like I'm watching The Walking Dead right now, and I'm on like season 8, but like, everyone complained about, the parts where like, well, nothing's happening. They're just sitting around and yada, yada, yada. But like, one of the things I love about those moments is that like, it gives chances to like, kind of dig into the character, kind of have these interactions that you don't necessarily get when things are so like point A to point B, point C to point D. So I don't know. I appreciate when King has that time, and he certainly does here. And that's honestly what hooks you in more than the actual hook itself. So
That's definitely one of his strengths, is just vividly bringing all these little secondary characters to life and the details of the setting. And this is a setting that feels at once like so mundane and familiar, and so connected to the themes of the story at the same time, which is not an easy thing to pull off. I don't know. I bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I think about The Institute, which was a book I didn't love, but the Institute opens with a guy, basically who's running away from his past, and he kind of, hops on a train, hops off at a random town, walks in, and then it's like the first like 50 pages are just about this guy building a life there. Like he gets a job, he meets a girl, he gets an apartment. It's just, and then he makes friends, and then I like that better than like literally everything that followed.
Same.
Because that process of building King's so good at building relationships, building a town, and showing how I don't know, it's like this idyllic idea of like starting over somewhere, which is a really sweet idea. Like Billy has it here, where it's like you move into a place where you don't know anybody, and it's that sort of ideal vision of, because I think Mike and I joked about like nobody talks to their neighbors anymore.
No.
So it's like
I can't handle it.
It's just funny to I know. Well, Jen maybe does.
I literally moved onto this street. Like my neighbors will just come over with beer and we'll hang out. They're like, hey, you want to come grill? And then we like played like some Dungeons and Dragons type game the other night. Like, yeah, that doesn't happen very often, but
that's sweet though. I love
it. Is
that.
Sweet. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd say in our ultimate siloed narcissistic culture, that kind of thing is very rarely happens anymore. But
it is an anomaly. Yes.
But it exists in the way it exists in King's world is so like you can see the pull, you can see like the I don't know, like the temptation to want to like stay and exist in that world and keep building it.
Yeah.
So writing is a big part of Billy Summers. The process of writing, which I think is going to keep happening. I mean, King's always been obsessed with writing writers, but I think, I don't know, I feel like as he gets older, he's going to be even more reflective. And so I wonder if this is going to be sort of a common theme, is like people, asking themselves what writing is for them personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Billy is this person who is a new writer, and he kind of discovers this self-actualization within that. So this is what King said about it. I didn't really know that there was going to be so much about writing in this book. You go where the book takes you mostly. And here's the other thing. There are books that I've written where writing is seen as a sort of toxic thing. And there are only a couple. Misery is one. And Billy Summers is another, where it talks about writing as salvation. You don't have to be a professional writer to know that that's the case sometimes. It's a doorway into your own feelings and your own view of the world. So that's a good thing. And I think that that's a really good point. The idea that like, writing isn't always this salve to people in his books. A lot of times it's something that channels their darkness, like in The Dark Half, it's something that can lead them to destruction. And but yeah, it's true that in this one it's very much a self-actualization sort of thing.
Well, I was just going to say, like, there's these two central characters who are sort of discovering writing for the first time through this inciting series of events, and it's somebody sort of at the end of their life and somebody at the beginning, and they both find writing as like the key to either closing the book on their life or opening the door to it. And I just thought that was really touching, and it sort of elevated, because as soon as I was like, oh, we're going to get another King book where there's a bunch of like a novel within a novel or what have you. And, but I thought it thematically worked really well. So I enjoyed it.
It's, it's interesting because, when he initially said, well, your cover's a writer, I literally just like guffawed and I like texted Randall. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like he's doing the writer thing again. But like the thing that's great about it is that like that's where he really does mine the most pathos out of his work here, because there are two things this novel gives me that is just like, what do they call it? Chef's kiss, whatever that fucking thing is. But like the thing is they have the Shane arc, which is like the Logan arc, where you have like the, the veteran that has to protect his like, the pseudo daughter figure in a way, which I love. I love those arcs. I love those stories. Logan is one of my favorite movies of all time, actually. I just love it. And I think he does a really good job with that arc here, because you get some great characterization. But the fact that he overlays that with something he's also familiar with, which is the idea of writing. But the way that he talks about writing here isn't so much just like the practice of it and, in getting in the weeds of it. It's almost like the spiritual mortality and immortality of writing. And I think that comes in, there's a confessional tone that comes from that speaks to, it's almost like, Billy and Alice is almost like his relationship to, the reader. And those that he might inspire, those that he might have touched or connected with. And for me, that is where I started, like it like really hit my heart, because he's coming at it at a confessional tone. And I think a lot of it probably is emblematic of the last year where we've been stuck inside and we've been able to meditate with a lot of these thoughts. And that, well, the end is for all of us, but like he's going to live on through his texts. And I think that's why, it's so important that like he revisits like some of his own touchstones that he has in here. Like that's why I talk about it in my review, but like he hits on everything that he does here, that he's done in the past. Like there's flourishes of Bachman, there's, the horror, there's the thriller element, there's the drama. And I found it really symbolic for him to do, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but like his connections to like Sidewinder. Like there's a lot of metaphorical allusions to like what King's saying about his own work and his own life in those moments that hit me so hard, that gives so much more agency to the tropey elements of it that he has. And I don't know, that to me, that was the best part of this book for me. That's the reason why I can't stop thinking about it.
I completely agree.
Yeah, it feels like writing as like, because it's autobiographical writing, so I kind of look at it as like finding the words to tell your own story, and because a lot of this book I think is about like healing from trauma, and I think that's really what connects Alice and Billy in a lot of ways. And like by the fact of him writing his story, she is empowered to write her own, and even though we don't see her actually do that yet. Like she finishes his and she like starts to tell her story, and she like slowly kind of tells what happened to her. And like, I loved that it's two untrained writers too, because it's like I've never had any kind of formal writing and training, and so like, but the first thing I ever wrote about was a Stephen King book, and so like, in the way that I feel like Alice is getting this power in figuring out how to use words to unpack things. That's what I feel like I get from Stephen King just in general. I'm reading books like on writing and figuring out what could be my process and saying, well, I can do this. It's just so, it was beautiful to see this story kind of told in this way, because it's like leaving a legacy behind. And like how many people like Alice are writing now because they read Stephen King,
It got to me for those same reasons, because it's like, that's just, reading Stephen King when I was such a little girl, and a lot of things, his contemporaries and horror movies and stuff, that was what made me want to be a writer and filmmaker. And, toward the end, it was like, when Alice rewrote the ending, and it was like in the pages of the book, it can happen any way I want it to. And it made me think of that part of like Blair Witch Project that always gets to me, where like somebody takes the camera away from Heather, who's like the main character filming the whole thing. And he's like, oh, I see why you like this. Is it puts a barrier between you and reality. It sort of mediates reality in a way, and like the creative process, whatever it is that you're making, is your way of mediating reality and reshaping the narrative of your life and the things that happen to you in it, whether, in this case, traumatic. And I have my own experiences with trauma that I found myself relating to these characters a lot, even though my traumas are perhaps a little less dramatic. I just found it really beautiful. Like, it was almost like he started writing this kind of genre thriller and stumbled into sort of literary fiction, which is kind of Billy's character too. Was his obsession with literary fiction. I thought it was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Nice. A couple other fun quotes that he offered up in Rolling Stone. They asked him who would play Billy if the inevitable movie, and he suggested Jake Gyllenhaal, who he calls one of the most underrated actors working right now, which I think is, I don't think he's really underrated. I think he's very good, but I think he is celebrated at a point that suits his talent.
He doesn't bathe though, so
that's the new thing, is him not bathing. It's all I could think about.
I love that people say it's like a psyop to help prepare us for climate disaster, and that we're gonna have to use less water. So the celebrities are all saying like, "Well, I never shower." So
when they take them
I'm
to
hot and I can still get girls to go out with me, so I don't care.
Yeah, that just seems like I became rich enough to be able to get away with not bathing.
Right.
I have some tinfoil hat about this because there's been rumors right now that Jake Gyllenhaal is supposed to be playing Ben Mears. No, not Pigpen. Yeah, Pigpen. Pigpen. It's just gonna be a cloud of smoke around Jake Gyllenhaal at this point, just like in the Peanuts cartoon. Love Charles Schultz. But I feel like if those rumors are true, I wonder if King has a hook in there, and then he's kind of like thinking like, think of him as the writer. Because he might be Ben Mears or whatever, which, hey, I'd love Jake Gyllenhaal as a Ben Mears. I actually saw Billy as older in like a Thomas Jane, but I always see Thomas Jane, so...
I saw him a little older. Back, Also, maybe, I'm not sure exactly how old Jake Gyllenhaal is now, but he may be old enough, but in my head, he's always like young, like this is just dating me. So,
yeah.
I just saw the entire cast from Barry, basically.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
Bill Hader as Billy Summer.
Actually, Bill Hader would probably do well at this, but
he probably would.
It's so close to Barry at that point, so he'd probably be like, I'm already playing a sniper. And
just make it the third season.
Yeah, you should. That'd be hilarious if it was like, we had seasons 3 and 4 set out for Barry that we wrote during the pandemic, but we got to say we love this King book, and
right.
I think season 3 is just going to be Billy Summers,
Barry Summers.
That's
funny.
Another fun thing is the Teddy Bears Picnic song. They ended up having to pay through the ass for that song because Stephen King said, Rolling Stone, he goes, "God, who knew that was copyright protected? I thought it was too old to be, but we had to pay through the nose to get that. Once you're in it, you're stuck." I had an epigram from Judas Priest, and it was a song called "You Got Another Thing Coming" for Duma McKee, and they came back and said they wanted $50,000 plus royalties, and I said, fuck that shit, that's not going to happen. So I made us a doggerel of my own instead, but Teddy's Picnic was pretty much baked into the book before we discovered that, so we paid.
That is wild.
So some teddy bear is rolling in dough right now.
Having a fancy picnic.
The teddy bear air.
Yeah. I will say, my day job, I have to clear a lot of stuff through public domain, and it is a pain in the ass, and it's really hard to figure out.
I didn't know.
It's
I didn't know
proving
that, Jen.
a negative.
Actually, I'm going to consult with you then, because there's been some very scary moments that I've had in the past where I'm like, this actually scares me more than a lot of stuff in the book, because I didn't realize that's a huge case where that happens. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's weird. That's odd.
It's like trying to prove a negative to find if something is or is not in public domain. It's like that information may be out there. You just got to find it. And
that's why everyone just uses Night of the Living Dead in movies now. It's
exactly.
Like, all right, well, here we go.
You confirmed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit about the critical reception to the book because the reviews are out. And they're mostly pretty positive. The Guardian said, "It meanders, it pays only the scantest regard to the rules of narrative structure. It indulges gladly in both casual stereotyping and naked political point scoring, and it's his best book in years. Like 11/22/63, the first half is pedestrian in pace, but rich in color and characterization. King has always excelled at sketching everyman's U.S., enriching the details into a minor epic register. It's what elevates him above his genre peers, and it's in full force here."
Seems fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Associated Press says the plot is straightforward and not really very compelling until about the midway point, which I disagree with. When Alice Maxwell enters the story, her story reveals a compassionate side to Billy and flips a switch in the narrative. She gives him a new purpose as an avenging hitman while serving as an eager audience for Billy's life story.
I will say this book went from like 60 to 120 for me when Alice came in. I thought it was still compelling, but when Alice enters the fold, I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, really, really in at this point. Like, and that was, I feel like I was kind of flipping faster.
I wasn't honestly sure about the entrance of Alice into this because I really thought it was going to go down a different road of like, sort of patriarchal, like, let me help you, little girl, rape revenge kind of thing. But like, he does, to my surprise, Alice kind of comes into her own as a character with her own arc sort of in the last third of the book. But there was this part in the middle there when she entered where I was like, where are you going with this? It is making me uncomfortable. But I think it completely redeems itself by the end of it.
Yeah, it kind of takes on like a you were never really here.
It's exactly what I was thinking of. I had that thought in my head several times. Like Joaquin Phoenix could play Billy Summers.
Totally. Maybe he'll just reprise his character and finds another girl.
Yeah.
We just keep latching IP onto this to make it.
Well, the New York Times was less crazy about the Alice character in their wildly spoiler-filled review. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this, you probably read it, so it's not a bother. But, like, man, this review spoils, like, major things throughout the entire book. I was very shocked by it. But yeah, they say, aside from the creaky coincidence, there's something at once prudish and prurient about the ensuing relationship that's hard to take. Post-Me Too, the conventional sexual dynamics of the pairing obviously wouldn't work, and King tries hard to square them with those of our own moment, keeping things chaste while also keeping sex very much to the fore. That these significant flaws don't totally derail the book is a testament to its author's undimmed energy and confidence. His eye for detail, especially at the Dreckier and of roadside culture, is sharp enough to keep the long car rides that crisscross the novel lively and vivid, and he remains in possession of a seemingly effortless verbal flow that surges on over bumps and banalities in the storyline without letting up. So still mostly a positive review, but they were less hot on the Alice action.
Well, why do you put it that way?
my problem is like the idea of him like not acknowledging the fact that there would be sexual attention of some sort is it feels facetious to me, because
especially if he looks like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, like if you're imagining these, two mildly attracted people, they're in these situations together, they're literally locked together. The idea of some sort of sexual connection, like you at least have to contend with it. I don't think he goes all in on it all the time, and I think there's actually some really honest depictions about it. So I don't know. I disagree with this. I feel like to totally disregard that just seems so fake to me.
Well, yeah, and that's why I think it redeems itself, because he really goes out of his way to acknowledge it. Even with Alice, there's like a moment where he like kisses her on the cheek and she kisses him on the lips and says like, "You may think of me as a daughter, but my feelings for you are not daughterly." Mm-hmm. And it's like, and I just flashed me back so hard to being like 20 and having like a huge boner for an older dude, and then like looking back on it and being like, well, that would have been horrible and inappropriate. I'm glad that didn't happen. I feel like it was a pretty honest depiction of those things, but there are a few moments where I don't think he totally nails it, and there's like, and I flagged them in my quotes and what have you, but overall, I think he does a good job, and I think you're completely right. Like, if he didn't acknowledge that tension, it would just be weird. Like, that's not how people behave.
Yeah. I loved most of the Alice inclusion. I have a big problem with it that I'll save for Misery, but I felt like it was a really kind of honest reflection of what would happen in that situation. I also think it's a good representation of like, hey guys, you can exist near a woman and just give her the support she needs without like hitting on her all the time, and I really I appreciated that. Like, he doesn't need anything from her, and he's just there for the kind of support she needs, and that just felt really like comforting. Now I was uncomfortable because I was really nervous about what was going to happen on the next
Same.
page, you know.
Same.
But I feel like, I don't know. I have an issue, I think, with what does eventually happen to her attackers, which we might save for later. But I think a lot of the issues.
We can talk about that later.
Yeah. But the issue I have with that is not necessarily about the story. It's kind of about like what I would want, you know?
Yeah.
Like I remember reading that and just having a lot of feelings the next day about what I did want the story to be and not really knowing, you know? And I think there's a big theme of like forgiveness in this book too, which I think is interesting, and it kind of plays into that, you know?
You know the hitman from Dumb and Dumber, Mike Starr? That's who I pictured Billy Summers as. So I was like, why does she want to bang him so bad?
Oh my god! He's just
I did. I actually no.
he's just taking
I did
his
think
fucking
of him
ulcer
as Mike
medicine.
Starr, though. I know. That's literally how I thought of him. I don't know what it. Maybe it's because I have Hodges. Like Hodges is burned in my brain, and they talk so much about how he's like rotund and doughy and like he's always on the verge of a heart attack. So it's like I guess I think like all King Detective characters are going to be that from now on for me. So
he's Mike Starr, but then to be even doughier, he adds more like weight on him.
The Prego belly.
It's Mike Starr now, where he's like 65 years old. So.
I saw it's like Mike Starr and then Carl Havoc in the whole wardrobe getup or whatever.
I love that. Okay, cool. Let's move on. I'm just going to read a synopsis really quick. This is from Amazon as we kind of move more into the actual story. Although we've made some really good points so far, but Billy Summers is a man in a room with a gun. He's a killer for hire and the best in the business, but he'll do the job only if the target is a truly bad guy. This sounds like it was written by a 12-year-old.
This is the ad read I think we did for the ad.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I know, it's really bad. Sorry, please keep giving us money to read this stuff. And now Billy.
Oh shit! Sorry.
And now Billy wants
that's
out.
fine.
No, it's a great synopsis. Now Billy wants out, but first there is one last hit. Billy is among the best snipers in the world, a decorated Iraq war vet, a Houdini when it comes to vanishing after the job is done. So what could possibly go wrong?
How about
everything?
How about everything?
I hate that
so
line.
funny.
I feel like, I mean, it's funny because all that stuff is in the book, right? You know, but like somehow they boiled it down to like the dumbest parts of it.
Well, when I was a kid, I always had ideas for books I wanted to write, and so I would write synopses for them because I would read a lot, so I would read synopses of books in the back. So I would write all these synopses for books I wanted to write but hadn't written, and they were all like this, where it was just kind of like, how about death, you know? So,
same.
moving on. Yeah,
I had one called An Outline ... for murder, and I drew the cover, and it was like a chalk outline of a body, and anyway, carry on.
I did the same thing. Okay. This spectacular can't put it down novel is part war story, part love letter to small town America and the people who live there, and it features one of the most compelling and surprising duos in King fiction, who set out to avenge the crimes of an extraordinarily evil man. It's about love, luck, fate, and a complex hero with one last shot at redemption. So that's the synopsis.
I do like that last sentence.
That's a little
nice.
better. That's a little better.
Yeah.
We're getting closer.
Yeah.
One more draft would be good, but yeah, they're nailing the ending. Okay, let's talk about the hook a little bit. We've touched on some of this stuff, but I think the first one is the whole idea that King mentioned in one of his quotes about one last job. I think this is kind of a common trope that we see in a lot of crime fiction. King said in interviews he was inspired by The Asphalt Jungle and The Getaway, Steve McQueen and, who's the other one? There was a guy who was in Casablanca. I can't remember his name, but
James Bond.
Wait, which one? No, Humphrey Bogart.
I'm being stupid. I'm sorry.
I made a bad joke in there too.
But yeah,
you can't take us anywhere.
Inspired by those movies, and
Sterling Hayden. You mean
Sterling Hayden? That's who I was thinking of.
Great, love him.
So, I guess my question is was it clear as we read this that why Billy wanted to stop killing people? And I guess were we rooting for him? And I think the answer is probably yes. But I guess let's talk about why, as a hitman who shoots people in the head, as our main character, did we were we on board with Billy from moment one?
I was, because of some very specific reasons. In my opinion, I thought he wanted to stop for the same reason any of us want to stop doing our jobs. I don't want to do my job every day. And it's like, to me, this was not just about what elevates this story is setting it kind of like in Trump's America and like really hitting all the drums of like capitalism, from ordering Amazon to, like the office building and pop up like startup law firms and stuff. It's like working within this flawed system, when you have a sense of any kind of sense of ethics of right and wrong, really tarnishes your soul. And like he is trying so hard to rationalize that he's not a bad guy throughout the course of this. And I just think that really speaks to like anyone working a job within like capitalism. Of course I wanted him to
agree.
succeed.
That's a good point.
I mean, and like it just kept hitting me over and over that like I feel exactly how he feels, and I don't fucking shoot people for a living. Wink, wink, that you know of. I mean, I just work for corporations because I need to pay the bills. I naturally I wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to get out and walk away. But like and to me, the shirt that he said, and that's why I locked into that line. If you want to play, you have to pay. My revision to that would be, you have to play, so you will pay. And to me, that's like one of the biggest themes of this book that I haven't seen any of like the critical reception picking up on, is that like this is really about how we're all locked into ethical systems that we can't get out of from step one. How like our life is set in motion. It's really fatalistic, and at some point it's like, Billy, you're such a fatalist. Like, I'm a realist. Like, what's the difference? Those were the lines that were really sticking to my brain folds and making me scream and bash my face into the wall.
I love that. I think that's a really, really smart look on it. I was thinking a lot about those themes too. And I think it speaks to the idea that the villain of this book is essentially like, it's as close to like someone like Donald Trump as you can get.
Yes.
Like, I mean, we know King is very Trump deranged, which how can you not be after these years? But it's kind of hilarious that the ultimate villain ends up being like the Rupert Murdoch type, or the Roger. He's more Roger Ailes than Rupert Murdoch, but like the Roger Ailes like crony at the Fox News analog in this book, which is essentially like indicting, I think, like capital and the politicians and the media moguls who thrive under capitalism, but and don't want anybody else to have their shot. And so it's very satisfying when that ends up being the villain. I was like extremely happy because I was like, yes, I get to see like a Roger Ailes type like get fucking shot in the head. Like, this is gonna be awesome.
This fucking rules. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
I need
it's
more
so
stuff
silly.
like that.
It's silly on some level, but it's also just like viscerally satisfying. And it's like he gave Rupert Murdoch or Roger Ailes the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein and was like,
yes,
I mean, it's like he was just
really
drawing
did.
on all these references that are so ever present that and like that, those are the themes. Like the themes of this book are the themes of right now. And it's like, this is really going to stand up as a period piece. I think
totally.
like it's just like it so accurately captured like 2019 specifically right before COVID hit. Like it's I don't know. There's something about it where I'm like, this is really going to be interesting to read in 10 years.
That's an astounding. Yeah, I love that revelation because I think that when you look at some of the smaller details that are in this book, they really do kind of fulfill that theme too, because it's not just the last job, it's the get out. It's like it's it's the great escape, because like in addition to Billy, who sees this as an opportunity to not be a cog in this machine anymore, with the money that he's going to be getting, that's going to finally be able to, fulfill his, his life after this. You also think about the Jensens and like the fact that like, they get that the will and all their money that comes in so that they can kind of be on the ship and they can kind of live their own life that they can have without having to have this like tired day to day. I think there's a parallel there. And
well, that's the only escape that we have anymore in this culture, is that we somehow find our way into inherited wealth.
Exactly.
Because the wealth is so much concentrated in generational kind of like ways now that you're either born into money or you're fucked, And so in a lot of ways, it's like if you can luck yourself into an inheritance, or if you can luck yourself into a fucking like lawsuit where you can get $1 million because a guy ran over your foot, that's like the only way to escape the fucking drudgery that we live in every day.
Because it's run by people like
exactly.
that he's
who
going
don't-
after.
who want-
Yeah.
that system benefits them because they can concentrate all of the wealth at the top.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they use that money to build like obscene palatial estates and diddle kids. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
At its simplest, it's like he really has captured the essential villainy of like the 1%, you know, if you will.
Yeah. But I think that's a really telling. I think that's a really great takeaway for right now, because one of the things that you see that's happening in America is the idea that like people are making more money on unemployment than they are in the actual regular wages. Like they're saying like, you know, jobs are available more than ever, but you're being paid $15 an hour.
Republicans keep trying to say that that's a problem, like that's a bad thing, and it's kind of like, why are you missing the fucking huge
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're getting
that we
so
don't,
close. Just go.
we
one
don't
step
pay
further.
people living wages, you know?
I know.
Right.
And so I think that realization really settled in last year, and especially when we basically realized that our government's not going to help us ever. Like, I mean,
We are
it's
on
astounding.
our own.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I like
Well, yeah,
that.
it's the ultimate. I think that I joked like of Stephen King blackpilled, you know, when I was reading this, because
Totally.
for me, I think like because I love like you know, and not to go too far, but I think like I'm very deeply fascinated by and interested in like conspiracy culture, right? Like not in a crazy way. I don't wear a tinfoil hat, but it's like more so just kind of like, yeah, when the Jeffrey Epstein thing happened, I felt like for the first time, like the veil was lifted on kind of like what is actually going on with the elite classes and the spider network that kind of courses through and is apolitical. And then of course it was like shut down and we were told to look away, like, no, you didn't see what you saw. And I kind of love that King is just kind of being like, no, I'm going after the pedophile elite.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Right.
Yeah.
Which has been warped by the Q, right? You know,
Yeah.
to completely miss the point. Like we get so, I feel like with a lot of these things, it's like we get so close to an essential truth and then like some hand comes in. And again, not to sound tinfoily here, but like, and like Mr. X, you know, and it's like, you're mad. You should be mad, but you're mad about the wrong thing. Like
I
you just
know.
go look in the other room, you dumbass. Like, you
I
know,
know.
yeah.
Well,
So
it's-
yeah, I
you
that's
know-
what I lost my mind reading this, because I'm just kind of like, oh my god, like he's going Epstein truther in this in a very good way.
Yeah.
In a way that I think it's not conspiracy at all. It's just
Yes,
facts.
it's just true.
It's all
like
fact,
it's
yeah.
documented. Like we
Right.
have sources.
I mean, this is
What
the
were you
world
gonna
we
say,
live in
Mike?
right now. Well, it's funny because like when we talk about this stuff all the time, you know, get a drink into us and we'll just go on for 3 hours about, you know, the history of the United States. One of the things we've been talking about, you know, and what I've always believed for a while is the fact that like all this kind of disruption, disentanglement, and that sort of like the blinders going off was with JFK. So it's funny that the parallels with this book are very similar to 11/22/63 that involved Kennedy, and then you also get this stuff going on with Epstein and everything. The Epstein illusions there. There's a weird connective tissue
along
there,
those lines,
you know?
Mike. I was fascinated by when Hoff talked about the barn fire. He goes, did you hear about the barn fire? And Billy's like, why don't I know about the barn fire? And that was when I got really excited, because it started making me think about grassy knoll kind of shit, you know? And that's when I knew something's going on here, and there's multiple plans that are being enacted here, and Billy's being played. And that's what that's when I started getting really excited, and I kept waiting for the barn fire to make sense. And then finally it did, and it did speak to the larger conspiracy that extends beyond just the kill. And so anyways, that's all to say that I enjoyed all that stuff. Jen, go ahead.
Well, it's fascinating because, yes, I was like infuriated by who turns out to be, I think, Frank Kemper or something. But he doesn't show up till like the last maybe 100 pages, you know?
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is like, I feel like it is less about him as a person and more about a system. And Billy is like a cog in the wheel of this system, which is kind of, I think, what he is trying to unpack is like his place in the world, because that's where he fell in like the social services system with like just living in that extreme poverty, and his sister kind of becoming a victim of that. And that's what you could say like being in war is knowing that there's a mission, but not having any clue what the bigger picture is. And so it's interesting, like, and we've just covered a movie called Bloodline on psychoanalysis, which is about a man trying to like reenact his trauma over and over again to try to process it. And so like when I think about Billy and is he a good person and why does he want this to be his last job, is I think he gets to a point where he realizes this isn't going anywhere. Like I keep trying to take this shot. I keep trying to kill the man who killed my sister, and it doesn't help. It doesn't make me feel any better because everything is still locked in. And that's why I think like in actually telling his story and letting himself like kind of admit these truths to himself, that's what kind of pushes him forward and not needing to be behind the gun anymore. You know?
It's a radical assertion of himself as an individual in a life that has treated him as a cog. Like, I think that's such a good insight, Jen. Like, he's in the social services system. He's then put into the military. He's then put into this like hired gun world. And here you have him finally saying like, fuck all that. I'm going out the back door one way or the other. Like, you know, and then processing that through writing is like really great. And I think this may go well into the like, is Billy bad or good kind of thing. There's just one quote that I want to read that I felt like captured this and is like the thesis statement for humanity. It was on page 450 to 51. It's a conversation over the phone between Billy and Giorgio, Georgie Pigs.
Georgie Pigs.
And they're discussing the clerk, Rupert Murdoch stand-in. Yeah, I've got some thoughts on that also. So this is a little bit of dialogue. She hates that guy because of what he did in TJ. And, she's talking about the pedophile guy in TJ. And if she thought someone was trying to fuck him up, maybe even arrange a hit on him, she'd shout, hooray. I feel about the same. Although it never stopped you doing biz with him, Billy thinks, or her. And then he doesn't have to say it because Giorgio says it for him. Sure, I carried his water. It was a lot of money and I wanted to live.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that really encapsulates so much of what Billy does. And he's seeing himself in that moment and he's seeing all of us reading this book,
Yeah. And it's I wanted to live too, which is kind of speaking to what you're saying. It's not like I wanted money. It's like I wanted to survive, and I was in touch. I touched this community that would kill me if I didn't play this game.
Yeah. I relate to a lot of that, and I won't digress too much. But I think there's a lot of things in America right now that we relate to this that feeling of like, just let me see tomorrow. I can't, I'm not going to think about next year. I'm not going to think about next month. I just want to think about tomorrow. That's it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And and I guess that does tie into the next question, which was, I think we've already really touched on it, but this concept of good versus bad in this world, which I think sounds really dunderheaded in the synopsis, this idea that he only kills guys who are truly bad guys. But then he kind of reckons with the question of just like, well, am I a bad guy? And I think it does speak to these ideas of like, well, he carried water too in his own way, even though he was taking out people who he found, morally repugnant, or these people had committed crimes and gotten away with them or whatever. It's like it does sort of touch on this whole idea of like, is anyone good in this world?
Right. Yeah. Or is anybody bad? Like, I feel like I did find a quote where it said like, they're really just, they're gray people. Like they're people that live in the middle and they're closer to the good and closer to the bad. And everyone is a human being. And, we aren't one thing.
Yeah, there was another quote in page 99. He's talking to Colin White, the sort of flamboyant phone center character, about how he switches from being this like nice guy to being this hound for debt collection on the phone. And it says, what it doesn't help Billy to understand is whether Colin White is a good person or a bad one. Perhaps he's both. Billy has always found this a troubling concept,
But see, that's what I love. And that's what I'm talking about with like the carrying water and like how I related that in the sense that one of the things that drives me nuts so much about this society that we're currently living in and the world that we're living in, like, God, I sound like an insult, but the thing that drives me nuts, and Randall hears me say this over and over again, is that there is no fucking acknowledgement of nuance in this world anymore.
Yep.
Like, there's no gray area. Everyone wants everyone to be so good, or otherwise you're bad. But here's the thing: no one's fucking perfect, and everyone has to do shit to get them by. And I'm not meaning like going out there and fucking killing someone. I'm just talking about things that like aren't even good for yourself. Like, having to do things that are literally ruining your life, but you just got to do it to get by. And like, that is the sort of, if people realize that more often nowadays, I think people would probably be a little more sympathetic to like the actual human condition that we're in. Like the thing that's this, I'll get off my soapbox in a second, but like this whole derailment, especially with online discourse, that like we disregard what the human condition is fundamentally problematic itself. Like, and I feel like this book itches at that a little bit too, because it's like, it's wrestling with that idea of like, all right, well, life is a win some, lose some tug of war. And sometimes you win on the moral side, sometimes you don't, but you get by. And I think that acknowledgement of knowing that there is the gray area, and most people are in that gray area, is something that I think is a very timeless and palpable feeling for me right now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that, the fact that people don't want to admit nuances, because it just kind of speaks to a lot of like rage and pent up feelings that a lot of us have, and there's nowhere to turn them, And that's like
you have to turn them inwards before you can turn them outwards. Yeah.
Right. And it's like the villain that doesn't show up till the very end. Like, I don't even have a name to put this anger onto, or to shift the focus to. And so when that happens, you just turn it to the first person you see, and it's just all part of this big system that just that serves like 1% of us.
Or it becomes bad gunky.
Bad gunky. So what is it we think? What is it we think Alice and the neighbors that he meets, and the relationships that he forms in this town? What is it that they sort of accomplish for him? Like, what are they showing him that his life amongst gangsters and soldiers has not provided him?
I think it shows him what he's been missing and kind of hiding away from the world. Like, I think we see him in this community in Fallujah and like forming these relationships kind of out of necessity, and then really shutting down. And we don't really know what happens in between those years, but like that's a response to trauma lots of times. And I think this is kind of his awakening of like, oh, I can like interact with people, and I don't have to keep this wall in between me. So I think it shows that. And I think it also shows, oh, people want to be part of my life too. I can engage in the world, and it's not, it doesn't have to be so black and white and me on this one side.
Which is, you made more or less the same point I was going to, is I really think that Billy believes that he himself is bad, and everything he does is a reaction to that. He has no stable love objects. Like, a childhood trauma that unspooled from a perceived self-failure has been like the defining course of his life. Of course, he doesn't feel okay getting really, truly close to anyone as himself, but when he dons these alternative personas and he's doing it as part of a job, he starts to really feel the pull of humanity. And it's like, I think to me, it's who he would be if life had unfolded differently, if his life wasn't defined by trauma and self-hatred and being shoved into these systems. And I think that like it's the thing that breaks him open and makes him really make different choices in this book, is because he for so long put a wall up.
I kind of took it as King's way of like making a commentary on the connections that we don't really have anymore, or we're slowly getting away from. I mean, we joked earlier about like how, or Randall did, about how I said about like I don't even talk to my neighbors ever, and a large part of that is because so much of our interactions are digital. And then you think about how that's even compounded even more with what happened last year during the pandemic. I think there's a sort of love letter to the sort of organic charms you get when you just connect on a personal level, like one-on-one. Like, even the idea of commercial office space is like a non-existent thing at this point, almost now. And they kind of, tease that around with the fact that Hoff is struggling with that office space. Like, no one's really filling it up, because that's a part of America that's also falling the wayside. And so, when you have something where it's like something as primal as like a bunch of people getting together, having food at the food trucks and having fun charms, and people coming to life and realizing that there is society, there is these interactions that you could have, there's a community. And then you couple that in with some of the more old school charms of like playing Monopoly or having cookies. Like, there's a nostalgic, and it's precious, you can argue, but I do think it's King saying like, no, these are good things. And this is what also cultivates like a better society, is when we have these things, as opposed to being removed and being in our own worlds and not having that, and not realizing like, yeah, the whole point of this, again, the human condition, is to be together, to interact, to have these moments, and they humanize us. And I think that's kind of where I saw it for sure. With that, but
yeah, I think Alice is sort of the progression from the neighbors, because he was still able to keep them at a distance, and out of necessity. Whereas Alice, it's like he's forced into that situation with her because he can't let her leave, because if she leaves, then she could, rat on him and everything. And he also feels like he should be taking care of her because she's in a very vulnerable state. And I think that like that forced situation that they're in, where they have to be in the same place, is kind of what I think pushes him over the edge into understanding the importance of human connection and the idea that it's okay to let people in sometimes. And that's what that accomplishes. So yeah, good answers. I guess, like, I just wrote, could this story have ended any other way? Like, because we get two endings, you know, we get the ending where Billy lives, and we get the ending where Billy dies. And I think, I don't know, I'm curious, like, what did we buy that the Billy living ending? Were we successfully caught off guard by the fact that it was Alice writing and not Billy, or did you suspect that coming?
I was surprised, and then I started crying, and that was like the tipping point for me. But then I was thinking back, and I think King hints at that because he mentions the things they carried. And I don't know if y'all have read that book. I read it in high school, but it's like about, I haven't read it in a while, but it's about like the thing that happens in a story doesn't matter if it's the truth, it's what you feel that is the truth. And so like that's kind of hinting at like that we shouldn't really trust that the events happened, but the feeling is real. And like, even though he may have died in the back of a car or by the side of the road in Hemingford Home, which I also started crying, like that doesn't matter. What matters is that he did redeem himself, and he could walk off into the sunset, even though he didn't actually get to do that. And so like, no, I didn't want another ending to the book. And I think the dual endings really kind of brought out the truth of the story, is that your story is your own, and it's the words that you choose and the way you choose to tell it that makes it what it is, and makes tells people how they can respond to you, you know?
Yeah.
I like that. I did forget that the Hemingford Home thing happened. So like, if you were saying like, could this end it differently? Well, it could have ended where, you know, he's dying there, and Alice like, what am I supposed to do? No one's around. All of a sudden, a door opens. It's Mother Abigail. She's back, and she's gonna save the day. And then Billy comes back. You know, no, is
it Teen A or Baby A or Kid A?
Exactly.
Bring him back.
Yeah, because it's actually the kid from the ending of the Stand 2020.
Right.
Comes in, you know, and resuscitates. But anyway,
and
sorry.
I was also going to make the joke with like spinning worlds out through writing that like, did anybody check if the Coke was referred to as nozzle?
Yeah. Well, there is something that's to that point that I'll bring up in KD, but I actually did see the I did see the you know the lack of a twist of I knew he was going to die when things started shifting into that bold point, because it goes into like the structure and format, obviously, with the book, is that like, you know, the way that he kind of oscillates between, you know, the third person omniscient narrator and then also the actual Billy Summers book in the writing. The minute it shifted towards the end into that prose, I was like, oh, we're reading the scripture here, like his work for a reason. And it's probably because he's not here to tell it, or like he's not around to tell it.
Right.
There's an artifact to it that's happening, you know?
Yeah, that was how I reacted as well. I didn't know exactly what was up, but I knew something was up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the scene at the end when he's dying and he kind of goes into the stream of consciousness. And I won't read the whole thing, but he's just talking about like Kathy, and then he talks about Corinne, and then he talks about being a grown-up and playing Monopoly. And it's just this like cascade of memories. And that's kind of the feeling I got when he kept mentioning things like Sidewinder and the hedge animals and like all of these things from like his past and like this massive body of work. And I'm like, he is really exploring his own mortality as writing, and like as the legacy and the story he's going to leave behind. And just kind of thinking about the fact that like his life is going to live on past him through the words he's chosen by like people like us who like interpret what he is saying to mean whatever happens to work for me, you know? And so I feel like he has been doing that in the past like phase of his writing, and this seems to be kind of an ending point of that.
It does, you know, and I just remembered that when he tweeted about our podcast, he said something like, it feels a little like being at your own funeral sometimes, you know? And there was something in this book that felt very, like, it had a finality to it, and I was like, don't go, Stephen!
I know! I'm always afraid it's going to be the last one.
Right. I would call it, because it does feel like a bookend. Like, it absolutely does.
And
know.
I think I like that you brought up structure and format, Mike, because I think we'll pivot over to that.
at me. Look at me, teacher.
Because I think like the writing itself, the distinction between Billy's book and the general omniscient narration is sort of the real structural trick in there, and it's also a clever way of introducing exposition into the story in a novel way. So we're getting backstory in a way that feels, streamlined, but also at least fresh in its presentation, because Billy's backstory is a huge part of it. Him being in Fallujah, him being in sort of the thick of the war, him learning his sniper skills, but then also, him killing his dad or his stepdad when he was young because he killed his sister, which is just extremely dark shit. But yeah, I think too, it's a way to, it also allows that structural style with the book and the narration, I think, it allows sort of that great trick at the end where it's revealed that Alice is writing, which really helps set up that transition to it's her story now, she can write her own future, which I think is a very moving sort of trick that he does there. Any other thoughts on the structure and format that stuck out to you?
Felt old school. It like I keep saying, it's like a greatest hits, and I felt like the way that he, fluctuates between the prose and that third person omniscient, felt very old school vintage King.
Yeah. I texted you. I'm waiting for the E to stop working on his whatever he's typing.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
You have to fill it in by hand.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
The only other thing was I just got really confused because on page 320, when he's visiting with the roommates who assaulted Alice, at one point the omniscient narrator puts us in Trip's POV, the Trip character, and I found that extremely jarring because this whole book were from Billy's perspective, and then suddenly it was like we were looking through Trip's eyes for just a brief chapter, and I don't know, King does that now and then where he just completely throws out all the rules a little bit. Like in books, he'll throw an I in sometimes when there is an omniscient narrator, and it's always very, very jarring for me. So I feel like I've become hypersensitive to these moments where he breaks the chain that he's developed and throws in a little thing I can get away with this because I'm Stephen King.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that speaks to the things they carried thing is this. The story is the most important thing to him, and he'll kind of fudge it a little bit to get there. I didn't notice that change in writing Good Catch.
Yeah, it's just a small thing. But I don't think there's too much to say, and we already touched on a lot of it. So let's talk about the characters a little bit in a section we call Heroes and Villains.
I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
I want to talk about Ken Hoff, but we got to talk about Billy first. So we've touched on Billy a lot. Is there anything we haven't touched on, or character moments that you think are really affecting, that you think help sort of characterize how he sees himself and how we're meant to see him? He describes himself as a garbage man with a gun. But, it becomes a bit more complicated as the book goes on.
See, I wish that we could have leaned into that more. I wish it was less Dexter and more like a Michael Mann archetype where I don't really care if you've killed some people that are great and, that are good and, that are just in the shady business, this incessant need to be oh no, they were bad. They had to be bad. They're bad. I get that because you kind of have to go lean into the moral thing, and I guess you could try. Maybe he feels like we wouldn't get to the landing where we are at the end of this book if we doesn't hammer into that point. But I don't know. I don't really care. I think it kind of feeds into the gray thing. If you're in this business, I don't know.
I thought that was more Billy rationalizing it for himself. Kind of and that was my main takeaway with his character is that he is the embodiment of cognitive dissonance and needing to rationalize his behavior in order to sleep at night, and that sort of facade and the way he compartmentalizes things gets messier and messier as the story goes on because he sees himself in Alice and he realizes that by applying that kind of code, he's still, and it takes Bucky's character telling him, don't fuck her up. If you let her keep on with you, she's going to basically take on all your same twisted pathos. Like, you know, I think it, you know, to his credit, he does realize at some point, like, the way that I've rationalized away my life is not healthy for me spiritually, and I can't let it happen to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to talk much about Alice. So Alice enters the story, and she's just been assaulted by multiple men and dumped in the street from a van. And Billy goes and helps her because he knows that, you know, I mean, it's born from a genuine sense of concern, but also self-preservation. And it's stuck between those kind of two poles. What did you guys think of Alice, and how did you think this, you know, I mean, obviously he's writing a character in an extremely vulnerable position. How do we think that he navigated that?
I loved Alice. I thought he handled it really well in a way that could have gone way off the rails. I think the way he kind of describes her interacting with Billy, like she could have been like a hysterical ball of just sobbing for like what days, but I think like the way he describes her shock and the way like a panic attack will just come up kind of out of the blue, triggered by like just something he said. I loved that. I thought it was really vulnerable, but like she felt like a complete person, and like the kind of things that like I would want, like she just wants to not be herself anymore, you know? And I feel like I like how this book gave her this window of time to really heal with a person who is strong and stable and will kind of give her those little tricks about the washcloth, but not expect anything in return from it. He's just supporting her because she needs it. And I mean, that's really all she knows. She knows that like if she goes outside, it could be bad for him, but like also that he's just there in a way that she needs him to be there. And I just loved it. I love the description of like the shame that she feels and like being embarrassed for people to see what she looks like right now with bruises still healing, which I thought like there were a lot of things that I underlined a lot. And it really touched me because it felt like King really cared about her as a character and a person rather than like this thing that happened to her, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. She kind of reminds me of Sarah Paxton's character in The Innkeepers, where it's like very intrigued by the environment around her and just and things in general. Like I love like the exploratory nature of, you know, her mindset, you know, like, you know, she gets into the house, like she goes out to the grill and is like trying to fix the grill, you know, like she is interested like with, you know, the downstairs, you know, the upstairs neighbors and, you know, that the apartment there. And then like, you know, she gets to, Sidewinder and she's like going out hiking and finding little things here and there. Like that aspect of it was like a really fun, also believable in the sense that like her relationship to Billy, it really kind of ties into like why she's so intrigued and asking questions and finding more about him. And it was just a really well-rounded character, I thought. Like, and I thought that the way that she comes in, you can kind of argue is almost like a Deus Ex Machina in a weird way, because it's like, it's almost like King. It's like when King talks about The Stand. And how, like, you know, here's a point when he was writing The Stand and he was just like, shit, I have all these characters. I don't really know what to do. Well, I guess I could kind of kill a bunch of them and then go from there. And it helped him get through the writer's block of that. But like with this, it's like, I felt like, you know, once Alice comes in, I feel like he was like, oh, okay. Now I know where all these threads are going to be going. I'm going to get going in that sense. So, you know, I thought she's great. I thought she's an excellent character, and little things that she does too. Did you notice like she always is cleaning the dishes? There are a couple. The two characters do that. Like so, Billy is always constantly talking about like putting his hands in the cold area of behind the pillow at night, which I liked a lot, and that's a recurring element. And then it talks about with her, where she's always kind of like setting up and putting things together at home. And I think that really fulfills into the own sort of anxieties that respectively have. Like with her, there is no real sense of place for her. So when she's there, she's going to make sure that the place is good. And then to kind of tie in with what Lara was saying about Billy, that idea to kind of like soothe himself with the anxieties that he has, that description of him just always going towards the cold at the pillow, because that's like him in his most reflective state. So it's almost like he needs that cold to kind of cool himself down spiritually. So there's like little things like that I thought were just smart characterizations in this that I liked. But
self-soothing quirks that they both have.
Yeah.
I like it with Alice too, that he does get to take her to this extreme where she is the one who pulls the trigger on, you know, the Fox News ghoul, and that he comes this close to, like, you know, they basically say, don't ruin her. Like, if you stick around, you're going to ruin her. And he does take her to that extreme. And like, I like that they reckon with the idea that as great as it is to kill this fucking piece of shit pedophile, that's going to haunt her. And that's going to be something that is baked into her being for the rest of time. And that only happened because he brought her into his orbit and he allowed her to come this far. And he folded her into the plan to take this guy out, which, he was regretting doing. But that's the thing, is if they keep on this path together, he's going to keep exposing her to these sorts of things. And so I like that she's brought to that sort of brink of being ruined, but is also sort of is given this sort of opportunity to push past it, reckon with that act of violence that she committed, and ask sort of, what bearing does this have on the rest of my life? Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, which is interesting because, I think another writer or in another story, what would have, quote unquote, ruined her would have been being assaulted in this way. And I think that's a dated understanding of what this is. And I think I love that it explores what does healing feel like? What does justice look like for someone who's been through what Alice has been through, which is something that I think about a lot. And I think she does get to the point where she has the ability to get what I think a lot of us would understand in a world where the justice we really want, which is these things are punished by jail and that we enforce laws that are on the books. And that doesn't exist. What I think about a lot is, well, I could just kill this person. That would make me feel better. And I love the exploration of maybe that doesn't make her feel better, and maybe that's not what she actually needs. And I don't know if she has been ruined by what has happened to her, but she's been forever changed. And by what might actually ruin her is just allowing herself to sink into that need for vengeance constantly, and letting that overtake her humanity, which I think, and maybe this is when we can talk about Trip and what does happen, because she does get a chance for revenge. She could tell Billy to kill them, and I think she ends up saying, I don't want this. And I read that and I went to bed and I was thinking, and it really kind of upset me, and I'm not exactly sure if it was a good or bad way, but it unsettled me. And I was what did I want to happen in that moment? What did I want those characters to experience,
I was having a very similar reaction to her, to that journey that she was on, and those kind of moments with her, because I couldn't really decide if she had agency or not. I think on the page she does, but on some level I also read things, as you know, because we do a whole podcast at Psychoanalysis Podcast about she's having a very trauma-driven response, and is anything. I'm of two minds about it. I'm is anything she's doing healthy for her right now? Because is she having the time to process and heal in a way, or is she running from the trauma and disappearing into this alternative narrative and identity? Or maybe is that healthy? And my ideas about agency in the wake of a sexual assault or something like that are actually really antiquated and tainted by my own internalized misogyny that I've gotten from, everything from Last House on the Left kind of, narrative, rape revenge narratives, because I think we are all a byproduct of the media we've consumed, So I was really struggling with how I felt about a lot of what happened with her and with what Billy does to her attackers and so on. I was having a really hard time landing on a conclusion about it.
Yeah, which I think ultimately, to me, says more about the world that we live in rather than this story. And I don't know what I would want him to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it satisfying that he sodomizes one of the guys?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I liked just that moment, but then I struggled with the rest of it. It felt like one of those things where you really want to eat the ice cream. Then you eat the ice cream and then you feel sick,
Yeah, it was one of those things when what I would really with it. Wasn't it
it was a stick blender or something, a stick mixer, what I was imagining it with the handle, and I couldn't tell if it was a immersion blender or if it had the little spool at the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to Google that.
Does it have a bulb at the end, or is it just a stick?
Yeah, it's got a little bit both.
Okay, I just
let's just say not a great afternoon or evening for a good old Trip.
Don't try this at home, maybe.
No.
Yeah.
I thought this whole narrative or this arc right here got a little too God complex for me, or like hero complex, like, and it almost kind of veers a little bit into like the sort of hero damsel sometimes, because
yeah, exactly.
like the way that she like kind of like, it's like bad people deserve, like that, like, I care about Trip. If he was hurt, that would make me happy. I still doesn't makes me a bad person. And then Billy's like, it makes you human. Bad people need to pay a price, and the price should be high. Like it reminds me of like,
voice.
Well, it just reminds me of like
Christopher Nolan.
Exactly. Well, it does. It reminds me of like a Batman Dark Knight thing, and to me that was like, I almost kind of wish that he did it without telling. Like she had said something, and then he did it without even knowing, or like in a way that like maybe she found out later on or something like that. But it just felt the idea of her putting on the bat signal for him. It just kind of felt a little too much for me.
Yeah, it didn't feel quite right with... I mean, I think that the confrontation of Roger Clerk, the ghoul, at the end feels more in keeping with like a more subtle or nuanced narrative. The attack of the rapists is like... It is very like Dark Knight, like vigilante justice. Like
Yeah. Cool. Thoughts on Bucky? Bucky is Billy's sort of partner in crime. We spend a lot of time with him in the latter part of the story, and as you mentioned, Jen, I believe, like he's the one who sort of says, you got to be careful with the relationship that you're forming with this person, because your life is incompatible with hers, like regardless. So, despite the closeness, but is there anything else about Bucky that we found interesting, or is he just the kind of character who only exists in crime novels?
Well, I just thought it was cool because like when I saw A Star Is Born, I was like, man, Sam Elliott, this is the last role he's gonna do.
Sam Elliott, it would be perfect.
This is like, I just saw like, this is a character that like literally feels like it's just him. Like I was like, the whole time I was watching it, like him just smoking cigarettes on his porch out in Colorado. He's got that sort of old school style to him. I just, the only person I could see the whole entire time was Sam Elliott. And that type of character that he always plays in those movies. Or
I was thinking of MC Gainey.
MC Gainey,
great actor.
Yeah,
well, I just kept picturing him as Stephen King for some reason, like like old present day Stephen King. But Sam Elliott is way better. Can we talk about Roadhouse sometime? Anyway.
Oh, I know. Well, that's the thing. It's like I feel like he's that guy from the like an older version of that.
Totally.
But I love that you said MC Gainey. Hey, you get to see
his dong and sideways.
Yeah, it goes right up. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Is it?
Right.
Yeah,
I know. I had the same thing. I was like, is it? Does Merlot come out of it?
It was a Pinot. It was a Pinot. Penile.
Pinot
noir.
penis.
Pinot. Pinot. You can see.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought we'd talk about MC Gainey's cock?
Penis. Yeah.
On Billy Summers.
That's why you listen to The Losers. Man. Yeah.
You never know where you're going to go.
You got surprises. Any other thoughts on Bucky besides MC Gainey's penis?
I love these type of characters in King's books. Like they're
great archetypes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like he reminds me of, he's done this ever since Salem's Lot, with like Doc or like Matt. Like it's
I was calling him Matt Berkey for a while, yeah.
Right? Like he kind of has that feel. He definitely isn't a Glenn Bateman, like my alma mater. But he could fit in that same realm where it's like these grizzled veterans that have some answers. And I just love their back. Like some of my favorite moments in King is just when he gets back to like the sort of blue collar moments that I understand, I get to. I grew up on docks and on beaches growing up. So like I love the idea of just like two guys that are older, just shooting the shit, talking about their pasts like over cigarettes. Like I get that. Like I grew up in that environment. So like when she's like, I related almost to Alice of like her going in and out when she's like watching these two guys just like having cigarettes on the porch. Like there's something comforting about that to me. And even though it's kind of like a scummy sort of activity in a way, that you're just like sitting there fucking chain smoking, but I there's something calming about it. Like it reminds me of almost like Lewis Creed and Judd in Pet Sematary, like those moments together where they're on the porch. Like I fucking love it. So I don't know, those moments with the two of them in Sidewinder, I just ate them up. I was like, give me more of that. You could write 30 more pages of this, and it's just them waxing nostalgic or talking about the shit that they need to do. Like I fucking love that stuff. So,
but. And I love the atmosphere of Sidewinder and setting it in Sidewinder and all that, the description of that mountain air and all that shit. I was just like, I want to be on this like weird compound with them.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, especially now where we've been like fucking locked away in Chicago. Like, I can't
Yeah.
wait to get out of this city. And
I want to go somewhere outside so bad.
I know.
Come to Nashville.
I would love to actually, but But do you have a porch where I can sit back and find a grizzled old man and smoke
I
cigarettes
do.
with?
Do you have a grizzled old man?
Yeah.
I have a fire pit, and grizzled old men wander by
Oh,
sometimes.
cool. Hey, buddy.
like moths to a flame.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're drawn to the
hey,
flames.
hey, Bucky.
Right.
And like they're like,
Got any
what?
anecdotes?
Yeah.
Spin us a yarn, old man.
Yeah.
Right. And then leave so we can eat some more stuff.
If you insist.
Oh Lord.
Well, let's talk about kind of the undulating mass of the mafia boys in this. We've got Nick
Undulating
Majorian. We've got Georgie Pigs. We've got Dana and his tight little man bun. We've got a lot of good, menacing little mafia figures here. I think they're very silly on purpose. I think they very much they border on stereotype, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me not to picture Bobby Bacala from The Sopranos as Georgie Pigs, which of course I associate with a gentle giant.
Yeah.
So, what do we think about the mafia guys here?
This is where I felt like it was like a Bachman book. It was funny because I actually thought that for a second when you were telling me like, oh, there's some big King's Dominion, and Bev Vincent was even telling us about stuff that shift around. I started thinking about, because there's such a strong stranglehold of the mafia, and it felt so Bachman-like. I was like, is he going to bring back from Thinner?
Oh my God!
Like, is Richie going to be? Yeah, is Janelli going to be a character? But he wasn't. But it's still part of that. It's all cut from the same cloth, and it's so pulpy, and it's all right from all the movies and TV shows that King loves. Like, the thing that, if there is a mark against Billy Summers, it's that like the action set pieces aren't very compelling per se. Like, they're all stripped from things that we've seen before. Like, literally, like Billy going on to the compound is taken straight from either like Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, or even Sicario. At the ending of Sicario, it's literally almost like the ending of Sicario, but he has fun with it, and like there's ways that like they're inside that he like the dialogue's fun, it's chummy and whatnot, and like even the ending when he goes to that compound with the billionaires thing, it's pretty much the ending of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Like,
It totally is.
So like I mean, he has these set pieces that are tropey, that are familiar, but like you're saying, Randall, like we know it's not. He knows it's tropey, but he has fucking fun with it. Like it's just
he's having fun.
Well, it's like throwing the Sneetches in something that.
Oh yeah, the friggin' Sneetches, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
I remembered that happened, and
Snitches. Sorry, Snitches is a
and the lightsabers
Dr.
and
Seuss.
Dr. Doom and
yeah.
we'll get to that soon.
Yes.
I mean, that's the benefit of archetypes, which is that, so long as you don't make them full on stereotypes, like they're fun, like they represent a certain thing, and King goes full fledged with that. And I like that he's so kind to his mafia people too.
I
Like
know.
he allows Georgie to not get killed and go lose weight in Brazil, and then Nick, he lets him off the hook in the end too. It's like because I guess in his mind there's greater evils than just these guys who are just also trying to like make a buck, It's like he's trying to go to the top, which I think is so fun about this. Is I feel like in earlier King he wouldn't have had the sympathy that he has for these mafia guys. Yeah.
If this is a Bachman book, they're like being shot in the testicles in like a fucking head. He's probably going to have sex with the mother.
Yeah.
So it's an older, softer King for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it kind of plays into that theme of forgiveness too, and I think maybe because I mean, you could argue that he's been doing that with several of his characters in recent novels, kind of backpedaling a little bit, and on the harshness, and I think that maybe he's just kind of working, like he is interested in other parts of the story rather than like the ultimate deaths of people. And I'm reading this, like I'm reading Salem's Lot right now, and it's just such a big contrast between like the things that happen to these people. But this is also a novel where he sodomizes a guy with a blender. So but he doesn't lean into the details of that. It's just like an aspect. So it's just interesting.
I was reading this and I'm like, this is definitely Stephen King, but it feels like it was written by a different person on some level. Like it's just I couldn't put my finger on it, but I think we're getting at it with some of these details here.
Well, it's what we were talking about in the last story. We were talking about this Lisi story, I think, where I was saying like I feel like he pulls his punches post accident, and like most of the books I've been seeing in terms of like the violence. And I think that at that point, maybe he was contending. He's like, I'm done. I'm good. I don't need to focus on it anymore. Because it really is like I've read most of his books post the accident and stuff, and it does feel like there's a marked turn. Like it doesn't have that, and even more so than a lot of the stuff that happened in the 90s. I mean, he's kind of hinting at that towards, eventually with the Green Mile, but even the Green Mile has some macabre shit that he doesn't get into in his later books. Like, so I do think that was a marked turn for him, but
Yeah, I think let's talk about Ken Hoff. Love this character.
dying.
Just let's get to Hoff.
Here's the thing. I don't have too much to say, only just that I love a good patsy. And I feel like we don't get good patsies very much anymore. And I kept waiting. I thought maybe Hoff was going to emerge as sort of the big mastermind behind the whole thing, just because the way that he had been set up and that Billy was so instantly distrustful of him. And then of course, one of the things I do like about this book is, although when I first read it, I'm like, oh, he made him a MAGA supporter. Like he put him in a MAGA hat. So, of course, like this guy's going to be evil. But then Billy went on, I think the book went on to say, like, just because some of these people are Trump supporters does not mean that they are like pure fucking evil, which I appreciated the nuance there. But yeah, I think Hoff though is slimy, but also pathetic, and also, I don't know, like amiable in his own way. Like I kind of wanted Billy to be nicer to him.
I did too. I literally wrote I was like, he's kind of dickhead. It was like Billy's disdain for Hoff, kind of a jerk.
Well, Hoff is just so pathetic. Like he's just like his pathos is oozing out, his desperation is oozing out. So it's kind of like, yes, he's obviously a prick and a moron, but like don't kick a dog when it's down. Like it just has that feeling to it.
He's like getting him movie tickets. I want movie tickets. Like that's a nice gesture. I thought he was a nice man trying to get him nice things.
No, I was so annoyed with Hoff. I was ready for him to exit the story. And it reminds me, because he brings up Ozark in this, and there's a character in season 3 that reminded me a lot of Hoff, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's like he just doesn't understand the weight of what he's involved in. And he kept showing up and like, call me fucking David. Like, what is so hard about this? Like, this is a big deal. It just like, he just felt like a liability waiting to happen. And maybe I was just on Billy's side with him, but I was like, fuck you, Hoff.
Yeah, I mean, I would have had the same reaction where it's like, dude, you need to understand the gravity of what you are stepping in. Like, you're going to fuck this up. Yeah.
Like, I just could imagine him wandering through the lobby like, here's my gun, Billy. Here you go. It came from Amazon,
I ordered it on Amazon.com.
Come on, dude.
There's a there are a lot of characters like that. And like he almost feels like a Michael Mann archetype, because there's always like that one character that, all of the protagonists in Michael Mann movies are usually like the best of their domain in their game, and they tend to run into folks that are thwarting that, liabilities. And it's always the guy. It's exactly how King describes him. It's like button down shirt, like almost with like the fucking grizzled, face, and you could tell they're living life on their shoulders, and they probably slept in their fucking short or their pants, and and I love that. I love those type of characters because they're such slouches, and there is a pathos that comes from their sort of like pathetic nature to it. I agree. Like, and so I think that's what I loved about Hoff. Like, he's a familiar caricature, like we've been talking about, and it's one I always love to read on. And the little quirks that King gives him, like I just keep going back to the gift certificates. I think it's so funny, like because it's like if you're Billy, at least if I'm Billy in that situation, I'm like, he's trying.
Yeah, I know. I just have such sympathy for patsies, because they're usually just like really stupid and they have no idea how they're being played, and I sympathize with that as a really stupid person. So
not a stupid person.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, cool. Any other characters we want to talk about before we hop on over to our most miserable section of the podcast?
I think we could go to misery.
When you put it that way.
Let's go to misery.
She died. She just slipped away.
Slipped away! Slipped away! She didn't just slip away! You did it! 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 You murdered my misery!
Annie!
Welcome to Misery. This is where we talk about the stuff we fucking hated. And man, I got a lot here. Even though I really like this book, I have a lot of misery. But does anyone else want to kick us off?
I just want him to get through one book without fat shaming somebody. just one. Like, that's all I ask. It's like a lot of the descriptions of George Rousseau. You know, I have some quote about page 35. George Rousseau, on the other hand, looks larger than ever in an unfortunate green shirt, untucked, and blue jeans with enough ass in them to make a pup tent. What the fuck is that? Billy supposes it's the fat man's idea of how a big-time literary agent dresses for a visit to Sticksville. And you could argue this is Billy's POV. He's like this hard-ass Marine type, you know, but like every fucking book, like you can't just, can we just not judge one fat person on a moral level based on their body? Like, you know.
Yeah. It is a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, on that same note, I'd like to maybe, like, now that we're kind of out of, Trump's presidency, like, he doubles down. I mean, I guess you have to, just because of the revelation we have at the end here. But man, there's a ton of stuff about like he just it starts off early on. It's like on page 57. It's like Billy's stunned to discover that Paul and Denise Ragland voted for Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
Can't stand Trump, who they call President Crybaby. Like
that
proving
orange
once,
Cheeto. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It's like proving once more. Billy supposes as he walks home, you can't judge a man by his wife beater. And it's just like, all right, like I guess it does makes sense when it connects into the larger picture at the end with like the conservative network and all that. But like, we've seen it so many times over the last couple of years where it has weeded through his books. And I've noticed on our Discord, a lot of our constant listeners are kind of like, all right, let's move on from this. Like, you don't have to keep hammering down. Like, we get it. The guy fucking sucked. Like,
it feels a little like blue wave icon in the Twitter, description. Like your aunt that is like her, nothing wrong with what you're saying, but Linda, just please,
Yeah, for me, this is just such a genuinely classist description, because I think the whole idea of framing poor people who water their lawns in wife beaters are Trump supporters. Like, no, Trump supporters are mostly like college educated, rich white people. A lot of QAnon people are country or whatever, but that does not mean that just because you're poor, if you just buy into the whole idea that all Trump supporters are just poor rednecks from Alabama or whatever, then that's like really classist and gross. I don't know. It really pissed me off, that whole section. I'm just kind of like very, very, very small-minded, Stephen. But it is what it is. I have another one here, page 59. He's talking about his own sister, and he's like lamenting her being gone. And he says, he's talking about like her chest, and he says, a chest on which no breasts would appear. And it's like, why would you say that about your own sister? That is extremely...
It's a very sexualized way of saying she's not going to grow up.
When
you could just say, she's not going to grow up.
Yeah, I was just like, what
a chest on which there will never be triple D implants. What a pity. Sorry.
I mean, I hear that's what he edited it to.
Right, the editor was like,
from. So I guess it's a good change.
That was just in there with like no other context.
Right.
I thought the entire character Colin White was just so it was too much. Like, just like the ludicrous outfits that they have. Like, it was just such a caricature, and I get that's the point, because you need the caricature to get by, so that he had a cover and everything. It just was a lot. It was a lot in a lot of ways. Like, at one point he's like, it's gay as Aunt Matey's Easter hat, and and just like there's one way they describe it, and it's like, where is it? It's like, so some stop on their way to the lobby doors. This is on page 173. Some stop on their way to the lobby doors to stare at the pillar of black smoke rising over the courthouse from out a Cody away. Colin White is among them. No coffee and a Go Cup for him. He's got a can of Red Bull. Today he's wearing tie-dyed bell bottoms and a blaze orange t-shirt. Nothing like the outfit Billy's hidden away, but the confusion shouldn't matter. But like, that is such an it's such a ridiculous like caricature. Like, it's too much for me.
Yes.
Like,
well, and along those lines, he has a character wearing brown face in this book too. Like he's using this like characterization or essentialist like piece of how they look to get by in the world, and it feels.
And he tries to get away with it by having Alice say, like, "Good thing the PC police aren't here," which is also like there were a few moments where I didn't buy the age that she was supposed to be and the things that she said, like, you know, or did, you know, like something she said, I downloaded Foghat that night, you know, and it's like, okay. And, you know, and then like that, like the PC, I don't know. It was just like, there were just little sour notes in an otherwise good song. And my thing is like, I just don't think somebody like who's 20 would use the phrase PC police. Like she might say like woke mob or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, right. It's more just these little details. There's also a point where she's sort like tries to pick out a pair of low-rise jeans, and I was like, no, Steven, that's not what they're into now. They like high-rise jeans. Steven. Anyway.
And we're not bringing low-rise back.
I swear to God, if low-rise jeans come back, I'm killing myself.
I know.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't make that joke.
Well, speaking of Alice, that's my big misery for the book, is the way, and I have an example of it on page 378, where she's saying, being with you is the only interesting thing that's ever happened to me, other than being gang raped, I guess. And it's like the way that he keeps throwing just the word rape around and keeps like identifying her as like, well, she seems to be okay, except that she got raped 2 days ago. Like it happens over and over again. And it was pretty triggering to read. And also like part of the reason that you don't want to like tell people that you have been attacked is because you're afraid that's the only thing they're ever going to think about when they see you, you know, or when they talk about you. And like that's what he's doing. It's like I feel like she is a bigger character than that, but like he keeps throwing that back in, and I'm like, stop it. You can refer to that without using that word. And it just got to me.
Yeah.
Right. There were just a few moments again, like I think he ultimately, like, I was taking those same notes while I was reading, and I was like ready to like come down hard on it. And I think he gets away from it enough by the end of the story to redeem it. But there's definitely a few moments where I was like, dude, just chill out. Stop trying to write about assaulted women like for 5 minutes. Like it's not, just stop. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's like sour notes. I like how you put that, because I think otherwise, like, I love Alice and I love the way he writes her. It's just one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Did we mention that he uses the phrase rape and roomies about the guys who assaulted her?
Look,
I didn't mind that so much because it was more like, well, I mean, but
I do
again,
like alliteration.
I do like alliteration, you know, even if it, I don't know. It was like, there's certain moments.
I love a good alliterative.
I'll forgive just about anything if it's alliterative. No, I think that there's
duly no, I'm just joking.
right. No, there's certain moments where you can push it a little bit, or like, I think again, it's also subjective and subtle, but like, there's just moments where like that felt like a very intentional, I'm going to use this in a like tongue-in-cheek way, versus other moments where it just felt clumsy and like, please stop, you know? Like,
stop it.
Yeah. Also clumsy, King's use of Coolio. A great modern reference. He's talking about watching TV, and he says he can finish with John Law, who TikToks his gavel like Coolio in the old music videos and takes no shit in his courtroom. I was just like, why did we need that sentence?
He's recently watched Dangerous Minds, I think, I guess.
There are moments where King kind of erupts out of the words, like, and I just see Stephen King and not the narrator.
Like I see Stephen King on Twitter, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're gonna have a little mini section right after this called King Being King. This is a new edition, and that's gonna be where we talk about those moments too. So I've got a few of those. But yeah. What else do you guys got? Any others?
I think that covers it for me. I mean, there's little things I had on there, but I mean, they're just minor gripes. I mean, honestly, like the biggest one for me was just the Colin White thing. I just thought it was just the caricature there was just. I get offended easily, but it was just a little bit much like. I mean, he's already come under fire for like queer characters in his books, and I just felt like it was like, probably could have gone a different way around this, you know.
Well, and to make it such a small character in the book too, like. It really is. He just exists for this one thing.
Yeah, and it's just, but again, it's just such a sensationalized stereotype. Like I couldn't believe it. And I guess again, it's pulpy. It's a pulpy story, but you know, pulpy.
In the same way, I feel like well, I was just to finish the thought. I feel like he's that and the like, dressing up as the like landscaper character. Like I feel like he tries to get away with it by being like, I know that this is bad, like he acknowledges it in the text, and then he's like, anyway, and it's like, no, maybe it's just
you need to know it's bad and then not do it.
right.
Yeah.
I've got two more small ones. One is the nickname Pete Donk Cashman. Just not going there.
And nobody used that as their nickname either.
I should have.
That was an oversight on my
Donk.
honk my donk. I gotta honk my donk.
And then the other one is I hated all the COVID forecasting. Really didn't like he has multiple scenes where he's just like, oh, and these parking lots in a year will be empty because of a pandemic, and I'm just like, all right, like we really don't need to jump forward and talk about that. Do we, Mike?
It's somewhat important because A, it's the classic King foreshadowing, and B, we have final official proof and evidence that COVID does happen in King's Dominion. So
you sounded like when
he
Larry
just said
David
a rogue virus. He didn't say COVID.
He did say rogue virus. Yeah, that is
when
true.
Larry David imitates Michael York in season 3 of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he goes, "Yes, Michael, it is
Oh,
important."
yes, Michael, it is important.
The way you said that. Okay, cool. Let's move on to let's go quickly to King being King.
Just Blaze being Blaze.
This is just a fun aside
Like
that
you
Mike
need
and
a
I.
catchphrase song,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, King being King. I think this is just because I see more and more in his later books, like stuff that should be on his Twitter feed and not in his books. And that's like the excessive discussion of the show The Blacklist, starring James Spader.
excessive discussion of it.
Well, they watch it and then, but wait, let me see if I can find the actual phrase. It just made me laugh, but he's just kind of like,
it's on 276.
yeah, he's just like, the premise of the show is ridiculous, but Billy gets into it because the main character, Red Reddington, is amusing and resourceful.
Yes.
Always one step ahead, as Billy wishes he were. They
Yeah,
watch I'm like, stop.
It's like his own capsule reviews from Entertainment Weekly.
That's
Like,
exactly what I
Right.
thought of, were those Entertainment Weekly things, which my friend Sean will always like find a random one that's like just so like cringeworthy and like send it to me, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah. Big
Yeah.
Blacklist sponsored that page.
And then I also have, he does this thing a lot in his later books. I've been noticing it more and more, and he does it about 5 times in this book, which is he'll be talking about like somebody gets shot in the shoulder or something, and he'd be like, in a movie, they'd keep going, but this is real life. He does that, like, I'm not kidding, like 5 times in this book, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. So that's King being King. Mike, did you have any other King being King?
Yeah, I mean, there's like, I feel like his mentioning and stress of the marbles is kind of like reference to like when he was like smoking. I feel like he still has that sort of pull there because, putting in that, there's a part where he mentions the cigarettes and that, and I thought that was kind of like his own sort of internalizing in that respect. He obviously it's just littered with all the TV that he loves. I mean, like Ozark is mentioned in here. He mentions, as you already mentioned, like the Blacklist, all the anecdotal references to different authors, like whether it's Zola or Blood Meridian, the Tim O'Brien quote, Oscar Wilde quote, like that's all King, like that is just like absolutely, him just leaning on his own sort of literary background. He loves, we all know that he loves sort of like fringe rock and roll sometimes. So like the mention of Southern culture on the Skids, I felt was like absolutely King, kind of leaning into his own record shelf.
There were a few record shelf moments with like stuff that Bucky was listening to. And
oh yeah. Oh, totally. I actually wrote down PC Police as King also on here too. At page 39.
That's what I mean. There's certain
Like-
lines where you're just like, that doesn't sound like that character. That sounds like Stephen King.
Right, yeah.
Now here's a weird one, and this goes into one of my favorite arcs and pulls that I always talk about with King, is that like I feel like he loves to kind of still bite his thumb at the literary circle because they've always kind of bit their thumb at him. And there's a point where like on page 467, I'm trying to find it on here because I didn't underline it because I don't, it's a first edition. I don't want to ruin a first edition. It talks about like Iowa, and he says something. He goes, I shook my head. No one but you is ever going to see it, and that's all right. It did its job. He's talking about the book. It opened the door, and I don't have to give you an alias. Alice was quiet for a while. Then she said, this is Iowa, right? Right. boring. I laughed. I bet the Iowans don't think so. And it felt like, because like University of Iowa is like a big, it's like a huge like hyper literate like English program there. And I wonder if that's like King just kind of being like, yeah, that place fucking sucks. Like I was just like, that's just me really personally projecting, because I can't stand literary circles and I don't like academia. I hate the world of academia. But I wonder. I've always been obsessed with that sort of part of his mindset, because I felt that way in college when I wanted to write genre stuff, and all the literary professors gave me shit about it and said it wasn't writing. And I feel, and he's had that chip on his shoulder for a very long time from the very beginning.
I felt it extensively.
Yeah. It is. 100%. And I agree with all of it. And because I think it's like, and I think the wheel is, I think that the narrative is finally turning, thank God. But I just felt like that was, maybe I'm just inferring too much, but I felt like the Iowa snub there was something, King's little sly way of putting it in. But I digress.
On that note,
one more.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he said probably a Yankee fan at one point, which, as we know,
yeah,
our boy King loves the Red Sox and they hate the Yankees. So, anyway.
All right, let's pivot over to the word processor of the gods.
And we're going to make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Here in this section, we talk about writing we actually liked, the stuff we thought was quite moving or beautiful. Who wants to share something?
I got some stuff.
Let's hear it.
Yay. Okay. So, I found there's one where he's talking about writing, and he describes it as the words coming on page 446, coming out like the water running downhill through the woods when the snow melts, which I thought was just so like beautiful, like such a beautiful description of like clearing things out through writing, and like the snow melting to like this cool, clear water. I just thought it was really nice. And then there's another one that I really liked that's on page 296. That's kind of like how I see this novel and what I think it means in a lot of ways. And he's talking about Alice, that she's probably sleeping and healing, he hopes, although Billy doubts that any woman ever heals completely after being raped. It leaves a scar, and he guesses that on some days the scar aches. He guesses that even 10 years later, 20, 30, it still aches. Maybe it's like that. Maybe it's like something else. Maybe the only men who can know for sure are men who have been raped themselves. And I don't know about the last sentence, but I really liked that paragraph. So
I also liked that paragraph.
I think, once again, he's outdone himself in terms of a great ending. I mean, I think the whole last section is just all word processor of the gods. I mean,
you could read the last few pages. That's when I really started crying, were those last few pages.
Yeah, the one in particular that I found on the last page that did make me cry. Bumping my this book is just big. So she's talking about writing and finding out that she can write. And she says, when I was doing it, she hesitated. Why is the word so hard to say? Why should it be? When I was writing, I forgot to be sad. I forgot to worry about the future. I forgot where I was. I didn't know that could happen. And that's the experience that I've had in writing about a lot of personal things and just things in general. And I just loved that. And I was like crying so hard that I couldn't see the page. So. Yeah.
Oh, I've got one. Just on page 95, I thought his date with Phil was really lovely. I'm kind of disappointed that they ended up boning, because I just thought this was like a perfect description of like, I don't know, dating when you get older and it not quite being like it was when you were young. But on page 95, they spend a pleasant enough half hour, but he senses her interest in him, as anything more than a friend, that is not as strong as maybe he had hoped it would be. He thinks it's the gulf between what's in their glasses. Drinking whiskey with a man who's drinking an iced tea lemonade mix is like drinking alone. And maybe the quick color that dashes into her cheeks as she takes down what's in hers suggests it might be so. Phil has a booze problem herself, or will in the coming years. It's too bad things are as they are, because he wouldn't mind taking her to bed. But keeping it friendly does lessen the chance of complications. He won't fade away entirely into the background with her. There is that liking on both parts, but no forensic unit will ever find his fingerprints in her bedroom. That's good for both of them. Yet even getting this close, exchanging life summaries, hers real, his bogus, is too close, and he knows it. I just kind of like the idea of a date that I don't know, like where the connection isn't quite like the two nodes do not meet. And
you mean like
they're on different
most
wavelengths.
states?
Yes,
Sorry.
I just thought it really lovely and kind of melancholy. And we don't get that in King too much because usually every woman who meets the main character wants to fuck them instantly. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Any other word processors you guys want to share?
Yeah, I've got a few, but I'll try to pick one here. This just, I don't know, this I felt like is also kind of reminded me of the creative process and how I experience it. And it kind of harks back to what you guys were saying at the beginning of how he sort of imagistically comes upon ideas. It's in page 40. Giorgio finally gets Hoff out and Billy is on his own. He's in the office building at this point in this story. He goes back to the window and stands there tracing both diagonals, the one leading to the wide stone steps and the one leading to the employee's door. Again, he imagines what will happen, seeing it vividly. Real-world events are never quite the same as the ones you see in your head, but this work always begins with the seeing. It's like poetry that way. The things that change, the unexpected variables, the revisions, the stuff that has to be dealt with when it comes up, but it starts with the seeing. I liked it.
I noted that one too.
Yeah. There's one where he talks about he has a sentence in mind, and maybe it'll lead to another sentence.
And I've got one more quick one that it's really simple. It's not very elaborate at all, but it really stuck with me as how I see the world, which is page 362 from Billy's story, within the story, right when he's describing the fun house and they're about to go in to the door. They're about to burst through the door and they're deciding who is the one that's going to do it. I want some, Johnny Kep said, and Taco said, you're it then. And that's why I'm walking today and Johnny isn't. Simple as that. God doesn't have a plan. He throws pickup sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one just got to me.
That's great. Are we hungry? Is it time for pound cake?
I think it might be time for pound cake.
Uh-oh.
After all you've been taught, everyone isn't bad, Mama. Everything isn't a sin. Come to your closet and pray. Ask to be forgiven. He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him. You really like him, Mama.
Here in Pound Cake, we talk about the bluer moments of King, the silly things. And let's just say I got one 2 pages in. All it took was 2 pages. Macintosh breezes through the pages and shows something to Polly Logan. Look at these chicks. Man, I could jack off to these. It's from an Archie comic that he's looking at. But I just love like the idea of saying to your friend earnestly, I could jack off to this.
Yeah.
But it felt very Sopranos. Like, I could jack off to these.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the clip that you sent me today from Guffman.
Oh, yeah.
You fucked my wife?
You fuck my wife?
Like the way that delivery would be, like it would just be so stilted if you said that. Like I could jack off to this. Like,
I could jack off to this.
It sounds like in Dirty Work when like the men in black who like to have sex with people. It's like, hey, there's a guy over there. Let's go have sex with him.
Yeah.
Like
Let's have sex with him.
Oh Lord.
What other slices of pound cake do you guys have?
I'm trying to find it. It's on 449. And yes, that's what it is. I thought it was so gross when all right, it's on page 449. They're talking about like getting the girls and stuff like that for the billionaires. Judy Blattner, Nick says, she doesn't touch jailbait. She doesn't? Nothing under 18. And that used to be good enough for clerk. Then he wanted younger. He'd call. Say he wanted dumplings. That was the code word. Oh my God, that's disgusting. And like even Billy's disgusting. Like dumplings, Billy thinks. Jesus. I was like, yeah, that's I don't know if that counts as pound cake, but it certainly it was disgusting in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
On page 37, he describes a woman on the cover of a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue as a bodacious babe.
I
just love that phrase. Like, I'm glad he's bringing it back.
I mean, bodacious babe or jahoobies, you know.
Mm-hmm. Jahoobies.
On page 479, and this is a little bit of King's Dominion also, talking about old Grossy Gross at the end. His pajama pants were working down, exposing padded hips and graying pubic hair, which is something that keeps happening in later, too, is this old dude keeps, like, his pajama pants keep falling down.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if Stephen King just needs to resize his underwear.
I know.
Yeah, get a belt,
something
man.
that's happening to him? Right, yeah.
Well, he's a lot thinner now than
I was gonna say,
no pun
he's
intended. You know,
thinner.
Very thin
Yeah.
man. So yeah, I could see his underpants falling down. I can see it. I can see it.
Ooh. And
I'm
now
sorry.
we all can.
Now we all
too,
can.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Stephen King.
There's some actual pound cake on page 100.
That's what I was just going to say.
Okay.
Yeah. They praise the mean extravagant.
I was wondering why that's stuck in my head for some reason, but you're right. It's actual pound cake.
Right. Yeah, they praise the meal extravagantly, including the dessert, which is a supermarket pound cake garnished with either Cool Whip or Dream Whip.
I'd like to think it's a reference to our pod.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, God, we're such fucking narcissistic assholes.
We really are.
But yeah, that would have been funny. I was like, man, they really think this would be a fun thing to put in pound cake. You know, like it's like a litmus test for him.
Right. If it shows up in the next book, I think that we're on to something.
Yeah. One other thing I didn't really mention, I guess it's kind of, I mean, you could argue that it's pound cake, but it kind of ties into, let me see. Do I have it in the next one? No, never mind. I'm going to save it for something else. So.
Okay, cool. Any other slices of pound cake before we walk it off in the cemetery?
I just found one mention of cupping his tinted shorts, not wanting to wang his distended cock into the bureau.
Distended is a horrible word.
That whole sequence where he gets a boner next to her, I really hated that sequence so much. I didn't include it because I was like, I know that it's supposed to be about the nature of the relationship, and it's not meant to be so like lascivious, but it just
when you use the word wang,
wang.
Cool.
I thought the sex with Phil was pretty great, though. I actually thought that
I didn't hate it.
It was a bit of a loofah moment from Pet Sematary.
Exactly. We rarely get some great A+ pound cake. You're like, good job. And this was one of them. Applaud. Kudos.
I agree.
Kudos to you, King. Kudos.
Could have been worse.
Yeah.
Could have been worse.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's head over to the cemetery and scare ourselves stupid.
What's the bottom of the truth?
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond the pet cemetery ain't human at all.
Here in the cemetery, we talk about what scared us, and I think probably the unvarnished discussion of ghoulish 80-year-old pedophiles is definitely up there. But what other bits of cemetery do we have?
Everything involving, I mean, this is more King's Dominion, but like the painting with the hedge animals really creeped me out. Like when I think of stuff that scares me in horror movies, it's those little things like that. And like looking back at all the old school King, it's those moments that always stick with me and get like eerie. Like, when we don't have to like go specific references to it, but like when he talks about how finally he talks to, Bucky about the painting, it's like, I haven't been up there. And the fact that like there's some force that continues to keep bringing the painting back up on the wall. Like that is my favorite ghost story type stuff. Like I love it.
Me too. I love a haunted painting, like that, where you have to keep turning it to face the wall. Kind of that if that shows up in a movie, I get like instant goosebumps. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't mark this, and I'm not going to read it because it really upset me, but the description of when he finds Alice and he's like talking about like her physical injuries, especially like in her, the word tearing, I think, is entering it really bothered me. I mean, I'm not saying it was wrong for him to include it, but it was hard to read.
Yeah, I guess for me, along the same lines as the the pedophilia stuff, just the banality of it, because Clerk says he got drunk and wanted to see what it was like with like a 12-year-old or something. Like just the banality of it, like, oh, I'm bored. You know what I mean? Like, that's just so horrifying to me. Just that that deep-rooted casual evil is horrible. So, any other bits of cemetery? Not a horror book, so.
No.
I mean, I feel like the war descriptions in Fallujah, or Lala Fallujah, as he calls it in the book, like the funhouse sequence was pretty, but it wasn't scary in the way that I associate with like the cemetery section. I just thought it was very vividly rendered and like, pretty horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, then let's hop on over to King's Dominion. We've got a good chunk to discuss here, so.
There's another world out there. I know there is.
Here in King's Dominion, we talk about the connections to King's larger world here. And, this is a book that is not a horror novel. It's it's a bit of an outlier in the world of King, but that has not stopped him from including many references to his works. The big one, obviously, we touched on the hedge animals, the fact that they're in Sidewinder, which is near where the Overlook is, and we see the Overlook in the distance, or at least where the Overlook used to be. And there's a couple spectral moments, nods to that.
I have a question.
Yeah, go
on
ahead.
that note, especially with Sidewinder. Were you just waiting for that cabin to be revealed that it was Annie's?
Ooh, the laughing place?
Yeah.
Or the laughing shack?
Or no, even just like her old cabin. Like I just imagined that like it was going to be revealed that like, or like there was going to be some subtle thing where like there was like a penguin that was inside the summer house, or like where Billy was writing, or that Bucky had got it from like Depot or something like that. That it was like, oh yeah, I think some crazy person used to live here or something like that.
You're talking about Annie Wilkes?
Yes, like I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be some misery because it takes place in Sidewinder. So like,
yeah,
I get the Overlook and the Shining is always going to be the go-to one, but I was actually kind of wondering if it's kind of.
Does it take place inside? I thought it took place like somewhere close, and like because all I remember is the line in Misery that was like that guy that went crazy up in Sidewinder at the old resort or something like that. But I could be completely wrong. So I didn't have it as Misery in my head for that reason, because I thought Misery was supposed to take place like some miles away in another adjoining town or something like that. But that's literally, I could be completely wrong.
No, you're right, Laura.
Fact check.
Sidewinder is in Misery, but it's not where that's not where Annie lives.
No, it's a private cabin near Sidewinder.
All right, maybe I'm wrong.
So that's why I was like, why don't they?
Fans?
They could have done it.
Settle the score.
Yeah,
that would have been fun though.
But
there was a pig wandering around, like some feral pigs.
Especially considering like he's using it to write too.
Exactly. Like it just would have been.
Like,
I mean, maybe it's too
connection.
on the nose, but like it's almost like because we rarely ever get like a Misery connection. It was kind of like I was like, I could have done something there, but
maybe it's like too much.
It might be too much. It might be a little much, but
page 110, we've got the 24-hour laundry and somebody working on the mangle, as in the mangler. Maybe
Love
you've
that.
heard of it.
Love that.
I was so excited by that one. Yeah.
Fun little one. Any others you guys got?
Oh, tons.
I got a bunch.
Like
Let's
there's
hear 'em.
some weird ones. Jen, you go first.
Well, okay. So Corinne, her last name is Ackerman, and Ackerman's Field is an inn, which is my favorite short story of King's. On page 133, he mentions New Fish, which is a nod to Shawshank Redemption. This is kind of a weird one that I think is kind of a connection, but the Pill, who is the guy who gives him all these little tricks, So in the short story, The Raft, he mentions a guy his older brother knew, I think in the war, who told him to bite real hard on somebody's ear to wake them up. And I was like, I wonder if it's the same person or if he's thinking about the same person. That could be me projecting. On page 64, he talks about eating baked Alaska, which I believe is something they eat at Jade of the Orient in It.
Fun.
And then also, like, the neighborhood is called Midwood.
Yeah.
I had that thought too. I was wondering about Midwood. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a couple others, but I don't want to step on anybody's list.
Mike, what do you got?
So I had some weird ones, like on page 192. We get a little Eaten Nasty. It's very similar to all this stuff, which actually has, and I think I talked about this in Lisi's story. It actually has connections to King's own sort of habits, because there's a fun little recipe out there for what he calls like his the gloop, and it's like his type of spaghetti gloop that he makes. And I feel like they did the kind of same thing here. There was an Arrowhead Mall on page 332. Project Arrowhead.
Yeah,
nice. Maybe it moved. No, I'm just joking. There's obviously, this is a stretch, and I actually texted Jen about this. So the place that Giorgio goes to felt very similar to Quitters Inc. in the way that they won't let you leave. So we were like maybe joking that like maybe they rebranded and moved out, like they expanded out to like Brazil where he's at.
It's an offshoot.
Yeah. And then on page 465 on Halloween, there's a clown in a car. So I think we know.
I underlined clown and was like question mark.
Yeah. I think we know a clown in King's Dominion, but
yeah. He
I've got
also
a few.
mentions Lacey's story. He says on page 32, holler them back home, which is something that Lacey says occasionally. And he mentions 10 fake cartwheels on page 385, which are the nickels that Ben Hanscom has at the very beginning of it. So I was like, huh. And then there's a big one that, that I don't want to, again, Randall, go ahead.
I'll just say I got another Lacey story, which is the idea of him writing like a child, like reverting to childhood while writing is like when Scott recounts his childhood stories.
I got one more for Lacey's story that on page 445 referenced the Too Late to Turn Back Now, which is a big song for Lacey and Scott. Right. And I will say my song with Sammy. So and we're celebrating our 3rd year anniversary. So sweet. Not too bad there. But yeah.
You could tell Lacey's story was in his mind when he was writing this because he just written the script.
Yeah. My other big one this one I'm very proud of is on page 419. Billy says, I also believe we won in Vietnam and the moon landing was staged. And then when I think about moon landing being staged, I think about the theories around The Shining that Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing. And then he put Danny in the sweater, the Apollo sweater. And so I think King's always been a little bit annoyed about how that narrative got folded in with The Shining.
Yeah.
Well, and there's one more because Alice Maxwell, I believe, is the name of the character in Cell.
Yes.
And there's also, and she in Cell carries a little baby shoe and she ties it around her wrist for good luck, which is
oh, interesting.
Shoe.
So that's where we were talking about with like when you were joking before about the Nazla Cola. That's where that was the reference I kind of wanted to hit at, was the fact that like, why would he use the same name? Why would he use those anecdotes? So is it supposed to be that like, and obviously this can't be the universe that Cell is in, because just like The Stand, these two books are like clearly the end of the world. So it didn't happen in the past, but it makes me wonder if it is supposed to be a same character or if it's supposed to be like a twinner or I don't know. Anyway.
Speaking of The Stand, he pretends to be a deaf mute. Like Nick Andros.
Yep. I was like,
he even goes by the name Nick Andros. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be fun.
That would be hilarious. There is a reference to, there's a crow in there, so maybe Randall Flagg's hopping around.
Maybe.
You know?
Yeah.
Is there Captain Trips?
Oh,
Trip
yeah.
at one
That's
point.
Yeah, that's true.
Just saying.
Any others that you guys have?
Just that the janitor story in 11/22/63 felt a lot like his story with his sister. That's more of a thematic connection.
Oh, totally.
But that's what really got me down the 11/22/63 thought path.
There are a couple weird ones. I mean, they're so stupid. Like one I wrote that's so dumb, and it was like on page 336. There's a character named Byers, Will Byers, Stranger Things. There's a connection there. So stupid. And then there is then they go to Boulder. Or they pass through Boulder, so that's another King City.
So I laughed a little bit. I was very moved by the ending, but I laughed a little bit because she has a moment where she says like maybe she could write something about the hotel that used to be there, and I was like, oh, Alice is going to write The Shining.
And maybe her new name is going to be Jackie Torrance.
I was going to say, she's Jackie Torrance.
Jackie Torrance.
She's going to open up the new Overlook.
That was what Mike replied with. Cool. If we have any. Do we have any others before we move on to our final thoughts?
No.
Cool. All right, let's move on to our final thoughts.
Dad, can we go now?
You ready?
Yeah, we've been ready for an hour.
Okay, I'll be right there.
You said that a half hour ago. Yeah, my dad's weird. He gets like that when he's writing.
All right, it's time to grade Billy Summers on 1 to 5 bright red Pennywise clown noses, and also who your VIP was. Laura, kick us off.
MVP.
What did I say? VIP.
VIP.
Yeah. Such a
What's the MVP thing? Sorry.
Oh, just who is your most valuable player? What character did you like the best?
Okay. Are you sure you can't hear that? Because it's.
I can't hear anything.
Okay. It's driving me fucking crazy. Like, I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but it's like the same thing over and over again. And these are new neighbors and I'm angry. Okay. I am going to go ahead and give this 4.5 bright red Pennywise clown noses. I always feel like I don't like going first because it's like, oh, am I gonna? And then everyone else is like, you're fucking crazy, 3.5, like, and I'm like, I'm a fool. But
You're not a fool.
I really liked it. I mean, there are flaws, but the takeaway, I really enjoyed. I fell into this book like a good old fashioned child falling into a novel. I was very moved by it. I thought it was really reflective. Self-reflective, and I think it just, despite its silliness and its broadness in a lot of places, hit on some things that are really specifically emotionally important to me, and things that I've been, dealing with just turning over in my head over and over again over the course of this last horrible year and a half. So I thought it was timely, well executed, and a really entertaining read. So, and I don't know, MVP, man, I don't friggin' know. I guess I'll give it to Billy Summer himself.
The titular win.
I'm going to give it to the titular character.
Yeah.
Just because I do on some level relate to him. And I think just the way that, just not obviously not for like any like literal reasons, because our lives could not be more different, but just in the way that he's using writing to unpack his trauma and to realize some things about himself, I just found really compelling.
Hot Billy Summer.
Yeah.
Jen, give us your nose ranking and your MVP.
I'm struggling with what to rank it because I really want to give it 5 Bright Pennywise Clown Noses. Like there are, I don't think it's going to eke its way into my top 5 of his novels, but I think it's definitely in top 10 for me. I think I'll come back to it. There are a couple of his books that I feel like I see myself in and I really, really relate to it. And this one, I feel like I know he doesn't know me, but I feel like he wrote this book for me, as a constant reader. And like,
well, he did reference Pound Cake, so
I know, and I love Pound Cake, but like just the idea of like what I come to his work for and what I get out of it, I think I see in Alice's character. And I think this feels like him understanding that and saying that's okay. And, you can take it and carry it with you in the way that you want. And I feel like I have rarely been this surprised by how much I like a book. I think the last time was The Drawing of the Three, going in not expecting to like it at all and then loving it. And so, and I'm going to give it 5 because I can rank them whatever I want. And
that's right.
I've decided. Yeah. And my MVP is Alice.
Nice. Mike.
I mean, I've said it all in this episode. I've written it all in there, but why not double down? So I look, this is greatest hits King. This is vintage King. This is just an actionable King with a spiritual center. This thing fucking moves. It stings you in a way that, like Jen was saying, it's so surprising. And that surprise is ultimately the big win for me, because as I had mentioned, earlier in this episode, I came in as thinking this is just going to be like a fucking Dexter Bosch, Palooza thing. And it wasn't, and it has such a really, really big emotional center, and I love how eclectic it is. I love how unexpected it is, and in the end, I feel it's really emblematic of what we love about King's Dominion. We like to laugh, we like to cry, we like to cower, and we do all of that in this. So, do I think this is going to be the last King book? No. King being a king, he probably has like 30 fucking books that are going to be coming out the next 10 years. But if it was, like, to stay on theme, it's a hell of a last job. So for me, I'm going to give this 4 bright red Pennywise Clown Noses. I'll go 4.5. I think 4.5 works. I went 4 on Bloody Disgusting. Having sat with it a little bit more over this past week and the fact that I haven't been able to shake it, I'll go 4.5. Yeah.
Nice. As for me, wait, did you say your MVP?
Oh, my MVP is Alice. I like Alice a lot. I love Alice, actually. But yeah, I'll go with Alice.
My MVP is Ken Hoff.
Oh yeah,
I knew you were going to say
motherfucker.
that.
I love this Trump-supporting ginger who got mixed up with the wrong people. He's my guy. No, I'm going to give this one 4 bright red Pennywise Clown Noses. I like Billy. I love Hot Billy Summer. I hope it never ends. And But there's a little bit too much cornball in here. I think too much like of Daddy King is coming out in this book that I think sort of defangs it occasionally. But overall, though, I think like it doesn't have as much beautiful writing as a lot of his other work. Because I just think that he's getting better at story in some ways, like, and he can still make things move, but I miss some of the more lyrical passages of earlier King. And, whereas this is pretty nuts and bolts for the most part, but yeah, I really love the story. It moves like the wind, and yeah, there's just a lot of like, I did not know, like I was kind of annoyed at the New York Times review because it spoiled things that I had no clue were coming. Like, I didn't know that the head of this Fox News type network was going to be the bad guy. And that was like so exciting to me when I found that out, because I'm like, he's going to kill Trump. And so that was just kind of like the ultimate expression of Stephen King. So I appreciated that. So yeah, 4 bright red Pennywise clown noses. And what a welcome surprise this book was. I think we all had a great time with it. And yeah, I think that wraps things up for today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being patrons. It's been a good time. So let us sign off with a long days and pleasant nights. Pleasant nights.
See ya, Billy.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
This is the end of our show. For now. We hope you enjoyed this production. If you like our programming, consider searching for other bloody disgusting podcasts, such as Creepy, Horror Queers, The Boo Crew, SCP Archives, Nightlight, Margaret's Garden, and more.